McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Glad you're with us. A lot to get to today. We'll continue talking Final Four. We'll talk a little bit of the Auburn side of it with Andy Burcham, 8 a.m. Sean Kelly does play-by-play for the Florida basketball team. He'll join us at 8:30. So we'll discuss that with him and sort of get his thoughts on Auburn, Florida again. We've already seen it, and we continue to sort of digest where we're headed with this year's Final Four. Want to get some college football in today. Charlie Potter's going to join us at 9:15. We will sort of get caught up on Alabama spring and Alabama spring practice. What's caught your interest of either what you've heard, Greg, what you've seen, just some talking points through spring thus far for Kalen DeBoer going into year two?
That the wide receiver group is the most improved group on the team. That's really encouraging. I love so far what I've heard about how the offensive line's coming together when some of the backups are playing left tackle because Caden Proctor's out, how some of those guys have fared, knowing that there might be some adequate depth at tackle that they feel better about. I think that there's reason to believe that when you look at the team as a whole, they're going to be better than last year. I mean, I think they are. I think last year's team wasn't as talented as people want to believe, especially at wide receiver. I think especially on parts defensively. And this staff, I think, has done a pretty good job of going over and looking through everything, making some solid additions and improving in spots where they absolutely had to get better.
Part of that is a little odd, though. You say not as talented as people think, specifically at wide receiver, when you probably have a top 5 player in college football returning at wide receiver.
18 years old, though, and undersized. I mean, great player, no doubt, but
I don't think anybody was complaining about his size last year.
Well, he's a one-trick pony last year. I think that he was kind of by himself, and they fell off a little bit, hit the freshman wall. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, I think it's pretty much to be expected to hit the freshman wall as a freshman.
But you have your leading receiver from a reception standpoint coming back, who was second on the team, tied for second on the team in touchdown receptions, second on the team in yards, Jeremy Bernard. So maybe not as talented as people wanted to believe, but it was still pretty good. I think the big concern for me would be on offense is that you are a lot more talented than people gave you credit for. Not on this show, but sort of nationally, regionally, whatever, at tight end. And that's what I don't know what you're going to be this year, to be honest with you. I specifically compared to last year, because you had, and we asked for it almost every week. Hey, it feels like that ability to play bully ball is there. Just go out and start pushing people around. And it only happened, I guess, 2, maybe 3 times. And that was only at different spots in games. But that's a position that I would say probably didn't get enough credit last year. And I really don't know what it's going to look like, what it's going to be this year.
But I don't know if that group, they did a lot of things that were blue collar. And it might not be that way this year. I don't know how I feel about that group yet. I don't know how necessary it is for them to be big time either.
Yeah.
I think that this is an offense that might be okay in living in 11 personnel, knowing the 3 wide receivers that they have. Like, I think Ryan Williams is a really good player. I think the slot situation with Jeremy is going to be fine. I think Isaiah Horton at 6'4" is a game changer. I mean, I think it's one thing to have guys that are solid down the field threats. It's another thing to have a big physical guy that can play underneath, guy that can take the top off the defense. I think he's got a chance to be the real deal. So if he lives up to expectations, that group might not want any of those 3 to come off the field, which means only one tight end needs to be on the field at a time. And I think they can probably find one that they feel good about.
Yeah, I've talked about the tight end position in this offense. It has been one that's kind of not necessary, but utilized when there. If it can be a strength, they'll have a spot for it, and they'll make it work, and they'll put it to work. But if it's not something that the roster has, that this coaching staff is a part of, they can maneuver around that. I mean, you had 2 almost 3,000-yard receivers in Washington, and still had a tight end that you utilized some. But you didn't have to have it. It's not an offense that just, we talked about, Lane and Levy and how they've said that when the tight end spot's good, that's when the offense is unlocked and it can really, really go because of some of the matchup problems you have. But this is not one that necessarily has to have it, but there are different things that they can be when they do.
Still better to have one. because of the versatility, because of the ability to flex and to run heavy situations and pass heavy situations. I mean, you can do it by motioning a guy 5 yards. All of a sudden you go from likely pass to likely run. And that's a big change for the defense, not to mention who you covering them with. If you have a dynamic weapon at wide receiver, who you covering them with? Safety? No, can't. Linebacker? That's hilarious. Corner? Cool, run down your throat. Like, it's, to me, I think they're really, really tough to handle because of how versatile they become. But I don't know if you have to have one to be great, but it sure helps. That's for sure.
I don't think
I mean, how good has Ole Miss's tight ends been the last 2 years? Not. Don't tell me Priestcorn was, because he wasn't.
Good for what they needed, though.
It was average as the day is long. You tell me Daniel Lewis can't be Priestcorn? Cuevas can't be Priestcorn? Like, anybody. The guy didn't block. Like, I mean, like, it was, I think you can handle that.
Well, we've gotten to a point now, let's be honest. How many tight ends do we see in college football every year? Whether it's the guy winning the John Mackey Award or a guy getting drafted in the 7th round or a guy that has to transfer to D3 that are good at blocking. We have gotten to the point now where if you are a willing blocking attempter, we will take that and we'll be happy with that. Like, just getting somebody's way for a second and a half, 2 seconds. Like the CJ Dupree guys are very rare. And Robbie Utes was a bonus because, I mean, he's a glorified guard.
Yeah,
you can just line up in different places. It's fun having those guys. They're not going to give you the matchup problems that you just discussed, but to have those guys to add a little bit of extra oomph as bonus bigs is great. But as far as true tight ends that are, like you said, with Priestcorn, who can run routes, who can catch, get open, those guys they're not George Kittling anybody in college football. Those are just extremely rare. You probably would have to go to Iowa to find those guys, and I haven't seen one do it that way in a couple of years. So give me a guy that gets in the way. It's kind of like we talked about with Rivaldo Fairweather. Like, when I watched Rivaldo Fairweather at FIU, you saw the athleticism. You saw him win one-on-ones against corners and get open. And you're like, okay, he can play. Like, okay, let's see what he does at the line of scrimmage. He'd shoot his hands. He'd get his face mask in there. And a lot of times he'd get thrown to the side. A lot of times he'd get pushed back. But at least he was out there giving you the effort, and he was trying. A lot of these guys now, they just fall down. Or it's like they bump. It's kind of like a bump and run as a blocker. Like, you just bump and then, I thought I was supposed to go to the 3rd level, coach.
Right.
No, we got to handle level 1 before we go up to the tiny safety. But thanks for trying. So if we get the effort, I think we're good. And it's just there's not a lot of guys that actually go out there and dominate from a blocking perspective at tight end, at least that I see. Maybe you're watching different film than I am.
No, I'm not. I promise you. I mean, the last dominant run blocking tight end I saw was with Georgia in 2022.
Washington?
Darnell. He's the only one.
And it took him a couple of years to get really good at it. It really did.
And if he was really smart, he'd change the tackle.
I remember I told this story over the weekend. I was talking to Von Hutchins, the GM for the DC Defenders, and we were just talking personnel. And I said it looks like you went from a numbers perspective, you changed it up a little bit and went more offensive lineman because of the injuries last year. And he's like, man, I had to. He's like, Cole, I tell these people all the time. He said, y'all think these guys are just walking around. And it's one of the best points that I've ever heard. He said, when was the last time you walked into Best Buy to buy a TV and the guy was 6'6", 320 and his fingertips stopped at his kneecaps? I was like, yeah, I said, there aren't many bank tellers that are 6'5", 340 that have good lateral agility. He's like, yeah, the dudes bagging my groceries aren't 6'3", 315 and can pull. But they just don't make those guys. Like, they're not just walking around. And so it goes a little bit into the offensive line conversations that we've had just about how hard these guys are to find every now and then. But then too, it's just they're not. You can go find a receiver sometimes that can run and maybe catch a pass, or a guy that you can hand him the football has been selling Toyotas for a couple of years. But like, these guys that are built this way, they're tough to find, and then to find the ones that actually want to play football is even more difficult. So it's tough to find those kind of guys.
Well, yeah, because what's the average height of an American male? 5'10", thereabouts. I saw the average weight the other day, and that's a concern.
What was it?
So I think it's like.
Hold on. I'm gonna say 222.
No, I don't think it's that high.
190.
But see, my perception of weights are different. Like, I would tell you, Damian weighs 200. Like, I feel like everybody. Like, we talked about this with females before. Like,
yeah,
I'll see a female that's like 5'11". I'm like, man, she's like 180. My wife's like, whoa, don't ever say that. Never say that. Like I just my weight proportions because of just like and that was one thing that Vaughn said too. He's like, I grew up around football, so I had gotten so accustomed to it. And he's like, you just don't realize that in the normal world, when you're not walking around in football practice 4 or 5 days a week.
Yeah.
He's like, you just forget how big some of these dudes are.
That's true.
I want to know what the average height was,
Are you
too.
prepared? All right, so the average height in the United States for an American male is 5'9".
Oh, boy.
The global height, 5.7.5. So we got an inch and a hook on them. Come get some. The average.
That's why we're back in the Olympics in basketball.
We are so back because of basketball. The average.
I bet if you did this 10 years ago, Europe's height was over ours, and now we've overcome that.
Take that, Lithuania. All right.
You're out, Croatia.
All right. The average weight for American males age 20 and older is 199.8 pounds.
All right. So,
but hang on. Average waist circumference, 40.5. So we got a lot of good high school offensive linemen. 5'9", 240. What? That was my center's height. He was about 5'9", 205.
I think that was your center's height in college too, by the way.
Don't you say that.
I think he'd be okay with it now.
Don't you say
fair.
that.
I think it's just fair.
He was probably 5'11". He had a little bit on the average weight.
Yeah. I think I might be under the average American waistline for the first time in my life, by the way. Not by much at all, but just, and I was over it for the large majority of my life.
Seriously, what percentage of, maybe not at Homewood, maybe not at the big schools, but I swear to you, my high school center was he's probably 5'9", 205, and was an absolute bowling ball.
EJ Vakakis was basically Damian with like 20 more pounds. Seriously. And he is a great high school center, like a really good player. But yeah, you don't see the 6'5" high school centers
not often
around. We're going to need you at tackle, sir.
Not often.
See, 199 to me, that's like a receiver. That's like that's a light safety. That's a nickel. So to me, that's light. But you say,
I don't know how guys play. I don't know.
I'm worried about this at 199, like average American. Like I'd love to be 199.
I'm not mad about it.
I'll never see that. I know you said you look concerned. I'm not saying that you're like. I'm not saying
at 5'9".
I'm not saying you're pacing your bedroom at night about this. Oh, this American weight. We've got to get this under control.
Okay, hang on. Let's do the math here. All right, 5'9". Just so we're on the same page, it's 69 inches, right?
Sure.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so 69 inches. You're telling me that the average waist is 40?
Right.
So you're almost
your
belt line is it almost the same as your height?
Stop that.
I mean, I'm telling you, that's concerning.
That is.
It's 29 inches.
That's the average.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
That's all I'm saying.
At 5'9", 40 and a half inch waist is a little concerning. And
that's it.
Yeah, see, I hear 199 and I think that's you're good.
We're under 2.
You're fine.
We're back.
Yeah.
I feel good about it. I don't feel like over 2 is anything to be too concerned about.
I view 199 as light. Like that's a lighter individual that I have to be around. But I guess in today's day and age, that's actually heavy.
No, 199's average. We're good.
Okay.
We're good. I don't know what that was like 20 years ago.
I'm not good because I'm above the average.
Yeah, you think?
By a bit.
Yeah, I think I got a couple pounds on the average.
But
got a couple inches on the average,
at least
too.
We got a couple on the height side. That'll
exactly.
Help. Stretch it out a little bit.
That's helping. You shrink me down, I'd probably be about 199.
Yeah, that's
if I drop 6 inches, I'd be about 199.
Okay, let me ask you this. Which are you more surprised about? That the average male height in America is 5'9", or that the weight is 199? Like you just went to the beach. You've seen what average is now.
The average height at 5'9" is more surprising.
Same for me. I would have thought that would have been like 6.
Yeah, I thought it was like 5'10".
Yeah, that's
5'10" and a half.
I mean, we got the kid at Florida, right? He's helping us out, and he's not even pushing us over 6 feet.
7'9" guy?
Yeah.
He's not playing.
It doesn't matter. He is an American.
He's redshirting.
Last time I checked, he has his citizenship.
Doesn't factor in. Red shirt.
ICE ain't going after him soon.
Red shirt. Doesn't count. How did we get down this path?
I have no idea.
Your GM of the Defenders, there's not your 6'3", 315-pound guy bagging groceries that can pull. Yeah, that's true.
But you need a nickel. By God, they're everywhere.
You can find them. Or if you need a real try-hard defensive tackle.
Yeah, you need a number 3 running back. There he is, 5'9", 199. Which, by the way, I was doing some draft prep the other day. One thing, this is way off target here. I was really surprised by some of the weights of the running backs in this draft. And maybe my
light?
No, heavier than I thought. Guys who can move.
Huh.
Heavier than I thought. And maybe my like running back weight is just, I don't know. Like Genty at 211, I was actually surprised that he was that light. I thought he was heavier than that.
I don't think he's very tall though.
He's not.
Yeah, he's
but
like
Amarian Hampton's 221.
I'm not surprised by that. He's a big boy.
That's like today's linebacker size.
That's might be where we're going though, is that linebackers have gotten so dang small at 230 pounds. We looked at all the first round draft pick or all the top 15 inside linebackers last year off the ball, and they were all like between 230 and 235.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It is. Like, I was surprised that DJ Giddens is only 212. I would have thought he'd have been like Caleb Johnson, 224. Excuse me. Not super surprising. Like, that's, I'm like, okay, yeah. I didn't think Jordan James would be over 205. Just kind of, a little bit different.
Yeah, he's pretty stocky. I'm surprised that he's 205.
I thought it would have been a little bit different. So I just there were a couple of those that I kind of saw, and I was like, oh, that's a little bit different than what I thought it was going to be. Like I thought Jaden Blue would be over 200 pounds, and he's not. So it's a really good running back class, and I was kind of just looking through some of them to kind of see where they were. Like, what do you think Jarquez weighs?
205.
I was gonna say 215.
See, I'd have been with Damian. I'd have been like 215, 218. He's 205, 204 technically.
He's too small. He's short.
But he just looks stocky.
He does look stocky, but he's a mighty mouse.
I guess that's the difference because Ollie Gordon 226, but he's 6'1".
And he's every bit of 6'1".
You know what Jarquez Hunter is? That's an average American right there.
5'9"?
That's an average American. 5'9", 204.
I would have said about 5'9".
Who would have thought?
How big is Rocket
Hunter,
Sanders?
Average American.
That's what he is. He's just an average American.
How big is Rocket Sanders?
6 foot 217. I thought he would have been heavier.
Yeah.
I think he probably walks around heavier.
I think if you would have checked him out 4 months ago, it was probably a little heavier.
Yeah, depending on the soft tissue and how if it's down and he's in the training room a lot, it's probably in the 228s.
He could be like us. I'm a little heavier on Monday than I am on Friday.
Yeah, no doubt. 100%.
What day did he weigh in at the combine? If it was a Monday, he's got problems. Fresh off pizza and Chinese on Sunday. Taco Casa.
Hold on, both?
Yeah, dude, I don't care. Whatever.
Pizza and Chinese?
And Taco Casa. Who cares?
How do you even do that?
I didn't do it this week, but
this week.
Usually 2 of the 3 are getting ordered on Sunday. I don't know which one or what order, but 2 of the 3.
Do you just guess and have like a personal buffet and then make the decision when it's all there?
I mean, usually Taco Casa is like a pretty safe go-to for us after church. And believe me, I'm not alone. I've seen that line. I mean, I've seen it.
I didn't think you'd care if you were alone or not. We weren't judging you. I just think it's for someone who's just, I had the vision of you just said, you know what, just get Chinese pizza and Taco Casa and we'll decide when it gets here. And then you got us all out on the counter.
And
you're like,
chicken on top of your
go
pet.
over with that. Yeah, there you go.
Good play.
Maybe the only thing more predictable than the McElroy household's Sunday meal menu would be the spring weather in Alabama. That's why you need the reliability of a Trane, voted America's most trusted HVAC brand. And right now you can receive up to a 10-year warranty on parts and labor on select Trane home comfort systems. Find out more at Trane.com. You know it's hard to stop a Trane. So what did you have this past Sunday?
Chinese and pizza.
At the same time?
No.
Which one is the side and which one is the main course?
Chinese for lunch, pizza for dinner. It was the end of spring break,
There's
and we
no
said
way
we're
I
going
can do
out with a bang.
Chinese for lunch. My day's over.
Well, good.
Like I see some of these, like still, I've said this on other radio shows that I've done before. The most amazing thing that I ever see is in the middle of the day, occasionally drive by a Crystal and you'll see guys in there just sitting in there eating lunch at like 12:05. And you're like, what are you doing with the rest of your day, man?
Maybe they're done.
My day's over. If I go eat Crystal for lunch, and I haven't had Crystal in years, but I'm going to tell you this. I go eat Crystal for lunch, there's not much more productivity that's going to happen the rest of the day. Well, there is, but it's not going to be at work.
Well, in theory, we are off the clock at 10 o'clock.
You and I, yeah, but these are, I see guys that are.
They might be done.
They got the work truck in there, and it's just like.
They might be done.
Is he going to go roof another house after this?
They're just built different, bro.
There's no doubt.
There's another level of
If you're eating Chinese for lunch and then having a normal rest of your day, then
Define normal.
doing things,
No.
not going from couch to restroom.
That.
Chasing your kids around successfly.
You got to give them
do it.
Chinese too. Slow them down a little bit.
All right. Speaking of food, it has made its way into college football. And we have a question for you. Good idea, bad idea for a certain football program pertaining concessions. Next on Mac and Cube in the morning. I thought it was Sean's, but I guess I was wrong. That was the Coastal Carolina athletic director, as Coastal Carolina this season is going to have free concessions for all fans. Now, that is water, popcorn, nachos, hot dogs. I'm sure a lot of folks got carried away and thought that you could just go to what any normal concession stand would have, which nowadays seems to be a lot, and you can get anything and everything, but not necessarily all that. But still, for me, this is an absolutely brilliant idea. And I don't think that it's just going to force the masses to come to your football games, but I do think, Greg, specifically for those with families, are going to look at this. If they were considering going or not, it would be something that sort of pushes them into, you know what, we're going to go check out a game. Kids can have all the popcorn they want. Kids can have all the nachos they want. We'll let them run wild. The concessions for 3 kids will save us $57 at the game. So it's now worth it. I do wonder from a little bit of a revenue perspective, how much of a hit Coastal might take, but the goal is to get people at your games. There are other things for them to buy, and I think that's what you would kind of be leaning on there. But your thoughts on Coastal just going free concessions for the entire season?
I wonder how quickly they're going to be out of things.
Whoops.
That's a lock. We'd like 4 hot dogs, please. We're out. Okay. 4 nachos. Yeah. Sorry. I ran out of chips last night. Well, the game started today. Yeah. Can we just have like some cheese in a bowl? Yeah. We're out of cheese too.
Well,
you can't have a Diet Coke.
That's all we got left.
We got water and Coke. Take your pick. I mean, that's 100% what's going to happen, but I appreciate the sentiment. I mean, I think it makes sense. It's hard for people to justify paying what you pay in concessions. It drives me up a wall to go buy the worst chicken tenders I ever had in my life for $13. Like, I'm not one that usually gets too concerned about spending money at a game. It's a freaking tax write-off for me.
But it is a lot.
But it's a lot. Every time I go to the thing, it's like $31. I'm like, golly, I got 2 waters, a Coke, and chicken tenders and popcorn. $31, please, sir. Oh yeah, I'll take a Sour Patch Kids too. Okay, that'll be $38. What? At $7?
Say 41.
Yeah. Like, what? It's a lot, man. And you go a couple times a game, and next thing you know, you're a couple $100 into concessions.
So I'll ask our listeners this question. How would this fall for you? And if you go to every game of your favorite school, it doesn't matter. But if you have become somebody who thinks the games are much more enjoyable on the sofa, which is one of the main reasons this is happening, and you talk to athletic directors, you talk to head coaches, you talk to administrators, they'll tell you one of the bigger problems is getting people in stands. That's why you've seen Alabama and Auburn revamp their old press box, because those were geographically set up in prime seating areas. That's why you're seeing teams like Ole Miss and Auburn have the on-field seating in the corners of the end zone now, where you can go have your own lounge and feel like you're laying out at the beach watching a football game. You got to get people to the games. Ultimately, it's what it's all about. And not just for the atmosphere that your team's going to play in, but from a revenue perspective. And I mean, I can remember hearing this from Jay Jacobs when he was at Auburn. He was like, Cole, we're having trouble getting people consistently to games. And he's like, I'm not the only one having the issue. Greg Burness told me that's his biggest concern moving forward is what is the next generation going to give as opposed to the one before them? And then people going to games, because the experience at home's gotten so good. So 800-239-9569. You want to get into the show. You can text in 205-834-9450. Would this change things for you? Not necessarily just from a Coastal Carolina perspective, but we've seen Arthur Blank do something similar in Atlanta where those prices are sort of locked in and they're very affordable, very reasonable. I guess if you wanted to throw in Augusta National, not that 90% of America can even go, but they do have, the 2-cent chicken salad sandwich, I guess, whatever it is.
It's quite 2 cents.
Okay, $1.
Inflation.
A quarter for
2 cents
a
and
full
20
turkey, whatever it is. We're gonna all brag about that for them. But it is cool that they've kept it there. So there have been ideas close to this, but not necessarily this per se. And so I think it's interesting. It's an interesting way for a team. First off, it got them a bunch of run yesterday, which is great. We're talking about Coastal Carolina right now. And I don't really feel like that they're a G5 contender coming up this year. But if it gets 10% more attendance than it did last year, Greg, then it worked. I mean, it's great.
Well, we'll see, too. How much is it going to affect the bottom line? We'll be curious to see that, too. I mean, like I said, are they going to be out of things? Is it really going to provide a better experience for people that go to the games? 'Cause this could very easily break down in a very negative way. misleading fans is something that could be very problematic for the long-term relationship that you have with your fan base. If all of a sudden you're offering all this free stuff and then you can't provide it, that'll be something that's really interesting. So hopefully they can do it. Not being super pessimistic, but going to be partially pessimistic here because I think that could add up pretty quickly. And I don't know exactly how much hot dogs cost at stadiums. I know fountain drinks cost next to nothing. I don't know what nachos cost. I have no idea what the overhead could be.
There's a reason nachos are at every concession stand.
There's good margins.
It's tortilla chips and cheap cheese. And I guess you got to cut a jalapeno every now and then.
Who wants that?
No, I don't understand the people who do, but some do. So I guess the way that you would phrase this is if this were the Barons, if this were the Stallions, if this were the Squadron, games that you don't normally attend that you had thought about going to, and you saw this as an option, does that then push you to go to a couple more games or another game? And if that's the case, then this is a win. Now, your aspect of this could be misleading. I would agree. If it goes that direction, not a good look.
No.
And you will hear about it on social.
Big time.
Every person that's there that's expecting to eat, to go Kobayashi on the hot dog stand is going to be tweeting out, sending pictures, asking on video, putting it on TikTok, and you'll know because they're going to want to get that out there the first thing. So I would advise them to be very careful and stock up the first few games. And the good news there is if you stock up on all those tortilla chips or popcorn, you just put it in the giant plastic bags, you got it the next week. We've all walked in the back of the stadiums and seen the giant plastic bags of popcorn. They didn't go through that in one game. It's been there.
Fresh pop.
No. All you got to do is have that little tin on the top sort of flickering a little bit, and then just have the old stuff on the ground.
Pour them in
no
there?
one knows the difference.
Yeah.
No one knows the difference. And then so as long as that little thing's popping at the top and it looks like it's going.
In all seriousness, though, how many people? I'm genuinely curious about this. How many people view concession stand prices as prohibitive?
I think there are people that when they look at it collectively say, I'll speak on it to a couple of games that I've gone to locally in Birmingham. I won't say where. It has not kept me from it, but there has been dread on the way because I know what my kids are going to want and I know what we're going to have to get. I know what it's going to cost. And it's not that it costs $27 necessarily. It's that what costs $27, as you stated earlier. It is a Powerade, a bag of Skittles, and some fries. Or nachos, Sour Patch Kids, and 2 Powerades, and it's $32. You just how? So I think that, but I do think that's part of it. You think about the parking, the getting in, and you know, if you have kids, are they going to want to stay? I think there's a lot of it that you could say, well, I pay for ESPN Plus, let's put it on there. What's the difference? It's
true. And the hassle and wanting to watch more than one game and all. I mean, I get it. Like, I understand completely why people stay at home. I like going to games personally. I grew up going to games, so I like being in the stadium. But I understand completely why people say, I'm good. I'm going to watch it from home today. Totally get it. But I just don't know how many people are going to be like, man, I can save $24 by going to the game and eating for free. I think there's a different spin on it though, and I'll tell you about it in just a moment. First, I'll tell you about Gusty Goulas and the Gusty Goulas Group. If you're looking for a new home in Central Alabama, go to GustyGoulasGroup.com. Better yet, Google Gusty Goulas Group, and you're going to see over 830 5-star Google reviews. Most agents start marketing after you list with him. Not Gusty. He's way ahead of that. Served more than 3,000 home buyers and sellers in the greater Birmingham area. He knows the inventory, when it's becoming available, what top dollar is going to be for your home that you're in now. And he's going to do everything he can to get it. Brokered by eXp Realty. Go to GustyGoulasGroup.com today or call 205-542-1996. That's 205-542-1996 today and start packing. Maybe a little bit different mentality on why Coastal did this and some good reactions coming in from some of you via Twitter. At Mac and Cube, you can tweet in there, 205-834-9450 to get in on this conversation next, right here on Jocks 94.5.
All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Talking free concessions at sporting events. Do they get your attention? Is it something that you look at and say, okay, if that's the case, I'll be there. I'll go. 800-239-9569. Coastal Carolina's football team at home games going to offer free concessions the entire season. Popcorn, water, nachos, hot dogs. Soft drinks included in that?
Yes.
Hope so.
Okay. I couldn't.
No, fountain drinks.
What?
Big difference. Soft drink comes in a bottle potentially or a can. Fountain drink comes from the fountain. It's like draft beer.
Is he gonna get
Basically.
sued for that?
No, just saying it's syrup water
Got it.
as opposed to the fresh made canned, bottled.
Totally different.
Delicious canned and bottled.
I would take it out of the fountain every time if you gave me the option.
And I'll just take the syrup.
You get that blue Powerade at certain spots. It's got a little
Man.
extra juice in there. You know it's good. You know it's better. Chick-fil-A Diet Coke, it hits harder than out of the bottle. It just does.
Does it?
It does. So I don't know how they get, like McDonald's Coke is just different. They get secret recipes, I think. When you spend that much money, you should.
Probably.
So they got it. So would that change things for you as far as going to a game? Would it make it more likely for you to attend a game close to you of a team that you normally might not go to the game? And I think that's where you're going, Greg. I think a lot of people aren't going to look at this as, oh, they might run out, or, oh, it's only hot dogs. I think a lot of people in their brain, when they see sale or discount or savings, they're automatically in. They think they one-up the man. They think they pulled one on you. They pulled a ruse. And they think it's like a gotcha. So I think a lot of people look like there's a lot of times, you know, I'll hear the, oh, look how much I saved on this. We didn't need it, but it was only $25. Look how much we saved. Well, did we really save anything if we didn't need it in the first place? So maybe it would have been 40, but we got it for 25. We didn't save anything. We spent 25. So that's a little bit of, I think, where they're marketing towards is there are a lot of folks in this country, I believe, that when they say any kind of free or savings, like they're going to be in. They just want in. And so you probably will attract some attention and get a few people there because they think they're going to go have a full Joey Chestnut afternoon at the Sean's football game.
Yeah. Well, that might very well be true. But I will admit I am a fan of sales. I'm never going to shy away from my sale appreciation. However, as I constantly acknowledge with my wife, just because it's 40% off doesn't mean it's not 60% on. So we have to talk about that regularly. And I will admit I fall victim to the sales as well. I'm a real gluttonous consumer, especially when it comes to things that are on sale. But all that being said, you still have to wake up. You still have to load your family in the car. You still got to buy tickets. You still got to park. You going to do all that to save $40?
Yeah. I
don't know, because I know this. I can go get some ballpark franks down at the local Piggly Wiggly and feel real good about how I grill in my place. Tastes pretty good, probably better than what I'm going to get at the stadium, to be honest with you. I can even make those nachos.
Man, you can't make them like they can.
Just buy Velveeta cheese and throw it on top of something.
Your chips probably won't be stale, though.
There you go.
You'll get the full experience.
I'll get the Tostitos.
Those are going to be too crisp. I need mine. I need mine to be stale.
Slightly soggy.
And soggy because they've been sitting there with the cheese on it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Now they give you the little cup with the cheese that you rip up. I'm just like, what a rip off.
Little cheese cup?
At least overflow the side container of cheese and give me some extra on there. Like, I feel like I'm getting my money's worth, even though it's $14 on that. Costs you 4 cents. But there are some folks that are tweeting in. Scott Shazer tweets into the show at Mac and Cube. You can be a part. Coastal Carolina will offer one size, small, portion control.
But it's free, so it's fair.
I don't think people are going to care what the size is.
Yeah, I can get 4.
Kay Taylor tweets in, this is Rockies are going full Talladega, I guess. The Rockies let you bring in soft side coolers with food and drinks, anything you want except alcohol.
Well, that's not anything I want then.
Well, trust me, I just got that experience at Disney last week, and my wife had a freaking backpack, extra bag. I mean, sometimes I'm was questioning was the 17 pounds of expletive we were carrying in worth of savings.
I will admit, I when we went to Disney, I did load up with
And went through all of it.
mostly
also.
Uncrustables.
Matt White tweets in, I see McElroy at the concession stand. I'm straight up turning around. I can't deal with that rejection.
I don't understand what that means.
When you were just talking about the prices and whatnot.
Oh,
Louis DeArmond.
it's the worst. It's the worst feeling in the world when you look at the prices. It's just the worst.
This is fantastic, actually. Louis DeArmond tweets into the show. I have my yearly doctor appointment next Monday, trying to get off some BP meds. And I kid you not, they redid the crystals in Gardendale after these last 3 months, just ending my day immediately with a bag full. I'm telling you, these people aren't going back to work. You can't be.
Can't do it.
William tweets in, a key element to the Coastal Carolina concessions deal is that each guest is limited to 4 free items per visit to the concession stand.
Correct.
Yeah, but
Still.
walk to the alleyway or whatever it's called, and then walk right back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when I've been to games before, you can only buy 2 beers at a time.
This will
That's how
likely.
much that matters. Who's that for? It's for my friend. It's in section 206.
He
Sir,
said this
you're at
will
101.
this will likely stifle stock issues because most people will go once, some will go twice. Very few will stay in line 3 times. We think there's always going to be a line.
Right.
That could be another way, though, Greg, is to only have 1 spot open or 2 spots open in the stadium. And then, you got to go over there to section 2.
I don't know.
It's a long walk and a line every time.
I don't know how that's going to work. If I'm going to be honest, I hate the line more than I hate the price. I will spend more if I know I don't have to wait in a ridiculous line. Like, for instance, I don't remember what game I went to. I think it might have been Coleman Coliseum a little earlier this year. And one of the lines was like, I mean, I swear, it might have been the Dippin' Dots line. I don't know what it was. I don't remember what it was. I mean, it had to have been 30 people deep. And I'm like, yeah, I think I'll go get, how about some cotton candy, Vince? Let's go. Cotton candy line's wide open. Action. Done. And cotton candy's terrible compared to Dippin' Dots. But still, it was easier. It was faster. It was more convenient. So, I don't know. The lines could be interesting.
You can keep your cotton candy.
I'm going to make a bet right now. Are you ready for this?
We're here.
Let's make a bet. Let's put it at
You already shocked the world with the average height and weight.
Let's put it at +1. Let's put it at +200. 2-1 odds
Got it.
that there is a video from this upcoming football season, assuming this promotion runs all the way through the football season, of a fight that breaks out in line at a Coastal Carolina football game. We will put it at 2-1. And that fight is on social media. You were just in line.
Got it.
I was going to say it has to be something having to do with concessions because we see fights at almost every football game. I feel like now. So
No, it has to be concessions. So here's what you do. Here's the play. Dad's in the front, mom's right behind, kids right behind them, other kids right behind them, other kids right behind them. You get five little concession runs in a row.
Bam. I've been making my 4-year-old have an order ready. He's not with us.
Can't speak, but we're going to tell him nachos.
Look at you strategizing there. I like that.
That's what's going to happen.
Like
People are
that.
going to get ticked,
9-year-old,
and the lines are going to be
7-year-old, 4-year-old. What?
If you're going to,
You didn't say one family gets a trip.
No, you said
You said
concession
one
trip.
person
One
gets
person.
a trip.
It never
We're
said
in
anything
line.
about using different credit cards.
We're in line just like y'all.
I'm telling you, a fight's gonna break out. Get ready. I'm ready for it. Yeah,
Nah.
+200, 2-1. You want to put money on it?
There's not going to be that many people.
It'll be
I
enough.
don't know. ECU versus Coastal Carolina.
Okay.
Rivalries?
What trinket do they play for?
The rivalries plus, free
The
concessions.
hot dog trophy, the free hot dog.
No.
You're gonna say no, so you are gonna not take the bet.
No, I don't think that we will see a video of a fight over hot dogs and popcorn and nachos at a Coastal Carolina game. No,
I don't
I
know,
don't think-
man.
No. Now listen, it's Myrtle Beach. I get it. I've been there many times, seen the people you're dealing with. I get that.
Poll
But no.
question.
No.
Poll question. I think there will be a fight at some point this year. You have 6 home games.
Well, you're going to get a fight regardless. I'm just saying over
Not in
concessions.
the concession stand line.
Well, if it was, I'll say this: if beer was included in this, 1,000, I would, yes, it'd probably be about 10,000 to 1.
Yeah, I wouldn't. No
one would take it.
I wouldn't take the action on beer. No. That's a lock.
Well, the good news is if you're not wanting to worry about free concessions later in life and retirement's on your mind, specifically if you're within 10 years from retirement, Tad Hill is who you need to talk to. I want to introduce you to him, our wealth advisor, your trusted retirement planning partner. Tad, the co-host of the Retire with Freedom radio and TV shows in Birmingham and Huntsville, also been designated by Forbes as the #1 financial security professional in the state of Alabama multiple years running. Tad, what do you have for us today? 7:53 Tuesday, April 1st, right here on Jocks 94.5, discussing free concessions at Coastal Carolina football games. Not a lot of people say that it would immediately have them attending one of these games, going to one of these games. Nigel tweets in, it will be like the parents with the 3-month-old trick or treating on Halloween. That's, yeah. And the ones that can just barely walk, sending them up and they're standing 4 feet away and they just came. Yeah, we've seen it. We've all seen it. Pickleback tweets in, of course there'll be videos of fights, just like every Black Friday and Spirit Airlines.
I had a friend that flew Spirit recently, actually. Said
I
it was
thought they went out
actually
of business.
No, said it was a good experience. I said, really?
So he was one of the few.
I've had to say. He was bragging about it. I was like, first of all, don't tell people. Second of all, was it really a good experience? Or was it just not a bad experience?
If you don't want people to know, how was it good?
Well, that's what I'm getting at, is I don't need to know if it was a good experience. But if it wasn't a bad experience, because I know it wasn't a good experience. There's no way it was. Did
he save that much money? So here we go.
The only good experience
this goes back to my discussion of you throw savings in front of a lot of people in this country, I'll just say on this planet, they're in. They don't care if there's a snake that came out of the baggage thing above the seat. They don't care if it crashed at one place. They don't care if the door was left open on takeoff at one point. Like that, by God, I save money. No flight attendants? I'll figure it out. I've been on enough flights. I know how to put my seatbelt on. I know where the bathroom is. Yeah, the oxygen mask falls down. Put mine on before my kids. I know. They don't care. They save money. They don't care. I don't know. I'll pass. Was it that much? Did he save that much money? Do we know?
I think he saved $180. Pretty good money. Pretty good money.
Yeah. You can save it. Go for it.
Direct flight from Fort Lauderdale too.
Direct is good.
He's got it.
Direct doesn't stink. Both those situations are good, but let me got news for you. If I'm in Fort Lauderdale, I need to get home. I'll be heading to Atlanta and driving.
Game Day Men's Health, also good for your health. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com right now. You get a free consultation. Along with that, free PSA test, free testosterone test. They'll find out where your baseline health is, and they want to help fix it. They have multiple plans for weight loss they can help you out with as well. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com today. Sign up for that free consultation and tell them you heard about them right here on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Andy Bertram coming up next. Welcome back in. Hour number 2 underway. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. We have covered concessions, average height, weight of the American male. And now we'll move on to college basketball. Andy Bertram joins us at this time each and every week, voice of the Auburn Tigers, thanks to our friends at Craneworks. Andy, always great to have you back in. Take us back to, let's start with Michigan and that game in Atlanta before we roll into Michigan State, where Auburn would advance to the Final Four. It feels like the role of a couple of individuals on this team has not only just been known, but I guess it's been highlighted now, Todd Pettiford being the main one. But Greg and I were talking yesterday how there's just been certain moments where a certain individual not named Janai Broome has had to step up and be big for this team. And it felt like not only in Michigan, but the Michigan State game that has continued to happen.
Let's back to that Michigan game, Greg and Cole, and good morning to both. 12:21 to go in the second half against Michigan. And the Wolverines led by 9. And Todd Pettiford stepped up and knocked home a 3. And that started a 20-2 run by Auburn, fueled greatly by Denver Jones. So there's 2 guys not named Janai Broome in that ball game that fueled an Auburn comeback. Auburn had 15 turnovers to that point of the second half when Auburn trailed by 9. For the rest of that game, the final 12:21 of that game, Auburn did not have a turnover and outscored Michigan 34-8. And primarily it was Denver Jones and Todd Pettiford at that point. And then you look ahead to Sunday, and you have to talk about Janai Broome in this game because early on he was just unstoppable. I think he made his first 4 shots. They were all inside 15 feet. He didn't nail the 3, and Michigan State could not stop Janai Broome in that game. And he ends up with another double-double, and then he goes out with the injured elbow in the second half, and he leaves the floor. I'll be honest, guys, I did not see him say this, but it's been documented from the CBS coverage that as he walked past the Auburn bench, and I think maybe said something to his parents, he said, "I'm done."
Yeah, I saw it.
I don't know if he meant
I saw it, Andy.
We did not see that at the point. And so he leaves the floor with Auburn's athletic trainer, Clark Pearson. And to me, Auburn at that point, that was Michigan State's chance to get back into that ball game. And it just didn't happen. Dylan Cardwell was a beast defensively for Auburn. Chaney Johnson, who came in for the injured Janai Broome, was a force at both ends of the floor. And Todd Pettiford stepped up, and Miles Kelly stepped up, and Chad Baker-Mazara stepped up, and Denver Jones stepped up. All of that happened after Janai left. And then out of the corner of my eye, as he comes in from the left side, Janai comes trotting back onto the floor. He talks to Chad Pruitt and to Stephen Pearl, and then runs by head coach Bruce Pearl and heads to come into the ballgame. He never sat down. He had to wait for the first of 2 free throws to come into the ballgame. But I've never been in an arena away from Neville Arena that was louder for Auburn than what we saw on Sunday against Michigan State at State Farm Arena in Atlanta. That was a home game for Auburn. That's why Auburn wanted that national number 1 seed. They wanted to be playing in Atlanta on the second weekend and for the Elite Eight. And it was so loud. And when he came back on the floor, that place erupted. And that wasn't because of something that was happening on the floor. It was Janai Broome coming back into that ball game. So I will never forget that moment of that game. And then, of course, he comes in. He immediately gets a one-handed rebound with his left hand, and he's left-hand dominant. And then Auburn comes down the floor, and he knocks home that 3 after Miles Kelly just left him the ball a little behind the back bounce pass to him. And when he knocked home that 3, really that ball game was over at that point.
What do you think is realistic for the percentage chance or the percentage of quality we're going to expect from Janai Broom? Do you think he's going to be at 80%? I know you're not a doctor, but it didn't do anything for the time he re-entered the game hardly at all, unless he was playing. I mean, he didn't do hardly anything with that right arm. Yeah, he didn't shake hands. He didn't lift it up. He didn't raise the shoulder at all. I think it's a shoulder. I know Cole thinks it's an elbow, but I think it's a huge problem. But what do you think is realistic for how close to 100% he'll be?
Greg, I don't know. I can't estimate. You're right. I'm not a doctor. My wife's father was a doctor, but that doesn't count at this point. I believe it was the elbow. I think he hyperextended that elbow. Now listen, he's had trouble with both shoulders and an ankle. So he has dealt with some injuries this year. I don't think Auburn did not practice yesterday. They'll practice for the first time since Sunday today. And I think we'll get a better idea about Janai as far as his availability on Friday or on Saturday against Florida and how strong he is at this point. I just think the fact that he came back into that ball game and played in that game and played well in that ball game, that gives me hope that Janai is going to be back to Janai when we get there Saturday. But at this point, I'm not even going to enter a guess as to, his availability or the percentage of his strength at this point.
Andy, I wanted to go back to something you brought up a moment ago, and Andy Burcham joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. He's with us every Tuesday, thanks to Craneworks. You brought up Dylan Cardwell, and I just want to get your response to this. I said yesterday on the show that I feel like you could make a real argument that he's been the MVP of this tournament for Bruce Pearl's team. And people would go look at his box scores and say, what? How? You've been at the games, you've watched them, and you have a little bit different angle of this team in different ways. How would you respond to someone who said that I feel like that should at least be a discussion point?
Well, if you look at his numbers, especially his offensive numbers, you're going to say that he's not the MVP of this team. And I understand that. He's has never been the scorer that Janai Broom is or Jabari or Walker or anybody like that on the low post for Auburn. But what folks don't see about Dylan Cardwell, well, let me put this. Defensively, there's not a better post player defensively, I think, in the country than Dylan. At 6'11" and 255 pounds, he's long, he's very athletic. He gets up and down the floor as well as anybody of that size. He is a shot blocker and is just an extraordinary defender. But what he means to this team off the floor is what folks don't see. They call him Cap. And it's been well documented, his challenge to Auburn before the Creighton game. And then he spoke to the team before Sunday morning, the game Sunday morning as well. And the tone of that was much different than his challenge before Creighton. It was encouragement, and he tried to put it in perspective for Auburn. And that team responded to Dylan both times. I mean, he really challenged the team in Lexington. This time it was encouragement and trying to put the game and this season in perspective. And I think those guys appreciate what he means to this team. Listen, he could have transferred 2 or 3 different times when Auburn brought in a Walker Kessler. Well, I mean, Dylan could have transferred at that point and played and started elsewhere. When Auburn brought in Janai Broom, he could have transferred elsewhere. When Auburn brought in Chaney Johnson, he could have transferred, but he didn't. He stayed. He graduated with honors out of the Harvard School of Business or Harvard College of Business. He's working on an advanced degree right now. To me, he is the epitome of the student athlete in a day and age when players are transferring, and Auburn has benefited from the transfer portal. Don't get me wrong, but this guy is unique, and he is perhaps more important to this Auburn team off the floor than he is on the floor, and what he does for Auburn on the floor is significant.
Who do you think at this point, because I've kind of believed this for quite a while, I'm not sure it's going to change. I don't think there's a more important player, even more so than Janai Broom, than Tahad Pettiford, especially seeing where things could go here in this game this weekend. How do you think he'll handle the spotlight in his first Final Four?
An interesting question, Greg, because I wondered how he would respond when Auburn played at Houston in the second game of the year, and he didn't score in Auburn's first game. And he went out and he was the difference for Auburn in that win at Houston. His best games at Auburn have come on the road, which is unique for a true freshman, even at the talent level of Tahad Pettiford. But what he did at Texas, what he has done on the road at Georgia, what he did against Creighton, what he did against Michigan. I mean, all of those games were away from Neville Arena. Now, this is a bigger scale Saturday. I mean, there's going to be between 70 and 80,000 people at the Alamo Dome. I'm looking forward to experiencing that dynamic of a basketball game in a football arena. But every time Tahad has been challenged on the road in a big-time environment, this young man has come through. I guess I should stop being amazed by what this freshman has done, but I am. What he has done in an Auburn uniform in this freshman year. And primarily coming off the bench. He started one game this year, and that was the Texas A&M game. And, you know, every time he goes out and has a tough game for Auburn, and he did that against Tennessee at the SEC tournament, he immediately responds. He is Auburn's leading scorer along with Janai Broom in the SEC tournament, or in the NCAA tournament. They're both averaging 17.3 points a game, and they have a unique relationship. I mean, here is a fifth-year or senior and a true freshman, and they play off each other. It's interesting to watch these guys around each other, but he has been. It has been an amazing to watch what Tahad Pettiford has done, and how he has at times led this Auburn team as a true freshman.
When you've seen this Florida matchup before, Andy, you saw it there at Neville Arena. When you look at what Florida has been, what Auburn has been in the last couple of games in this tournament, what needs to be different that can be different for this Auburn basketball team this time around to maybe gain a trip to the national championship game?
Well, I don't think there's a team playing better basketball right now than the Florida Gators. I mean, they're on a roll. And with the exception of one game, their loss at Georgia, they've been among the very best teams in the country this year, running roughshod through the SEC tournament. They have been tested in their last two games in the NCAA tournament, but have come back to win both of those games. That was an amazing comeback against Texas Tech in the Elite Eight. They have added depth to their roster since Micah Hanlogden has come back from his injury from a year ago, so they're even bigger on the inside. They beat Auburn at Auburn 90-81. And they beat Auburn like Auburn was beating teams. And they did it at Neville Arena. And they out-rebounded Auburn that day. Alex Condon had 17 points and 10 rebounds. And he dominated the inside. And their trio of guards in Clayton, Richard, and Martin are as good as there is. That trio is shooting the ball extraordinarily well for Florida. Auburn's going to have to win this game from a defensive standpoint. They cannot give up 90 points again to Florida and win that game. I don't believe. Auburn's got to play better defensively on Friday or on Saturday night to beat Florida. And think about this for the first time maybe since the Duke game, guys. That game at Durham. Auburn is the underdog going into Saturday night. The national number one seed goes into Saturday night as the underdog. Bruce Pearl will use that to his advantage. There is nobody that coaches better with a chip on his shoulder, in my opinion, than Bruce Pearl. But that's the case for Saturday night when Auburn faces Florida in that first game of the Final Four.
Finally, Andy, as you look on the other side of the bracket, I know you've obviously taken a peek at what Duke and Houston have done. Not saying that we need to look ahead, but in the event in which Auburn pulls the victory out on Saturday, what kind of matchup do you anticipate Houston and Duke? I know Auburn's seen both. What kind of matchup do you anticipate that being?
Well, I mean, Houston plays defense as well as anyone in the country, and they're playing very, very well right now. Duke ran roughshod through the ACC this year and won an ACC tournament basically without Cooper Flagg as a factor in that. That second game is going to be a terrific game. And how does Houston's defense attack a very balanced Duke offense? If Auburn advances out of Saturday and gets a Duke team, listen, coming out of Cameron Indoor, and Auburn lost that game by 6 or 8 points. The prevailing thought was, all right, it's a loss. Let's learn from it. But I'd love to get this team again on a neutral floor. And that's what that would be. If it's Houston, I'm sure Houston's going in saying, hey, we owe these guys. We got beat by these guys back in November. So there will be some interesting storylines for both. But first, and most importantly, and really the only important thing right now for Auburn is finding a way to beat a Florida team that I think is playing as well as anybody.
Absolutely. Andy, great stuff. We love having you every Tuesday, and we do it every week. Thanks to our friends at Craneworks.
And one of the Craneworks companies is Wasteworks. It provides roll-off dumpster rentals in the Birmingham area with a range of sizes and fast service. They're your local source for dumpster rentals. Visit wasteworksusa.com for a quote. Guys, have a great week. We'll talk to you on Saturday. Our pregame coverage right here on Jocks begins at 4:30 Central from the Alamo Dome in San Antonio. War Eagle.
War Eagle, Andy. Thanks for joining us. Enjoy it. Have fun. That's Andy Burchell on the Higginbotham Hotline. You deserve solutions that are built for you. Higginbotham is your one-source solution for insurance, financial, and HR services. Also, Andy brought to us each and every week by our friends at Craneworks. When we come back, we'll switch over to the Florida side, talk to Sean Kelly about what the Gators are going to bring to the table. Play-by-play voice of Gators radio broadcast. He'll join us right after this on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. We just got the Auburn side of this matchup from Andy Burcham. Let's get the Florida side of it from Sean Kelly, who calls the Gators basketball games for their radio broadcasts. And Sean, one thing that Andy said that I think some folks may disagree on, not if we were to go for the last month, but maybe just the last game, is that nobody's playing better basketball than Florida right now. I think if you were to say the last 5 games, 6, 7, 8 games, I would totally agree. But there were some lulls and some lags in that game against Texas Tech. Is that at all of concern for you about what Florida may bring to the table against Auburn in the Final Four?
Good morning. I'm not so sure. Yes, I would agree with you that it was not a perfect 40 minutes for the Gators against Texas Tech. And I'll credit the Raiders on that because I thought for the first time in a while, I saw a team that had a really unique game plan against Florida, made them uncomfortable in ways that Florida hadn't seen in a while. So it provided those moments that obviously found Florida basically on the ropes with just minutes to go. I think I'll lean more, guys, on the body of work over, say, the last 10. All wins for the Gators, all in March, averaging 90.6 points per ball game during that stretch. Only 2 other teams have done that in March, and that would be 2 times for Duke. They both went on to win the national championship. So I think I'm going to lean more on the 10-game body of work than the 1 game against Texas Tech, although, as you said, there were flaws. And it was interesting talking to the Florida coaching staff yesterday. They were excited about the fact that they could get a couple of practices, like in their own facility this week, because they haven't had really a chance to have a whole lot of practice time with their team since the start of the month. And they felt like there were probably 1 or 2 things offensively and 1 or 2 things defensively that they had to clean up, kind of get refocused before heading into the weekend. So the time here between now and Saturday night is something that they're really seeing as high value.
From an outside observer's perspective, it feels to me like Todd Golden's ridiculous. You know what I mean? Just the way, I mean, seriously, just the guy's amazing. He's like next level in being able to create good looks for his players. He anticipates a switch defensively as a guy cut to the basket as he's pretending to set a screen. It's like the guy's one step ahead of everybody he coaches. From your perspective, having seen him play all these games this year, how next level is he from just an XO standpoint?
Well, he's pretty amazing, and his staff's pretty darn good too. I think that there are 2 things here in play. One is that he trusts Kevin Hovde, who's kind of his offensive coordinator, and John Andrzejek, who's his defensive coordinator, to help build those game plans. And he's heavily involved in that, but he allows them the room to work those game plans. And then, Mac, I think you're right in the fact that in game, I have been around only a handful of other maybe college coaches that are as good as Todd Golden when it comes to either A, in-game adjustments, or B, special teams or special situations, ATO, after timeout, sideline, baseline, inbounds, starts and finishes the halves. So those things prove to be pretty good. And obviously we just saw it here against Texas Tech because Tech found a few things that worked for them and leaned in on it. And Golden, whether it should have been a play sooner or he was a play late on it, he eventually figured out the adjustment. And that allowed that door to crack open in the last 3 minutes and whatever seconds it was for a one last quick in-game adjustment to get the door cracked open and then let his guys hit some shots at the other end. So he's contagious in the fact that his players feed off of him. He feeds off of them. I mentioned the dynamic with his staff. I've really enjoyed watching a guy just in 3 years get a team to the Final Four. And it's a pretty cool dynamic here in the Final Four, too, as I know you guys were just talking about Auburn, but you got 2 head coaches in their 60s and 2 in their 30s. I mean, there's one end of the spectrum to the other, and we're getting to see kind of some cool stuff from all 4 of these guys.
From a lineup perspective, is there anything different about what we've seen the last 2 games that you feel like he may go with against Auburn this time around that was a little more successful when they played at Neville Arena? Anything along those lines that you think could have a little more variety than what we've seen so far in this tournament?
Yeah, no, I think he's going to stick with what's working right now during this 10-game stretch, or just even in the 4 that they played in the tournament. The one wrinkle that will be interesting is that Elijah Martin did not play in the game at Auburn 8 weeks ago. So Martin is now in that mix, and that presents some things for Auburn, but it does also for Florida too. Denzel Aberdeen stepped up. He was pretty big when Martin was out. Clayton had 19 to lead the team in scoring in the previous meeting against Auburn, but the Martin dynamic kind of changes things a little bit. So the change is the Martin factor, but there's going to be no change, I don't think, in Golden's rotation or use of personnel, even into his bench, as to what we've seen here in the last couple of weeks.
What do you think will be the key for them? Is it going to be guard play with Clayton, or is it going to be something on the low post? Because with Janai Broome being so banged up, you would get the sense that they'd try to attack him, especially with that right arm. How do you anticipate them trying to attack Auburn?
Do you have any more information on Broome that I can sneak?
I think it's look.
If he did, he would.
I think it's a shoulder. Like everyone, I know he hyperextended at the elbow. I get that, but that shoulder's been giving him fits forever. I mean, it feels like for 3 months. I think the shoulder is real problem. And then basing on how he could bend it at the elbow after the game, but he couldn't lift it above his head. He refused to lift it above his head. So I think it's shoulder. I'm not a doctor, but that's the sense I get. Cole thinks it's elbow. So somewhere in between is probably the wrist. You know what I mean? We'll just pick something else.
Yeah. He's got a bad wing. We'll just put it at that. I would say this, though, for a guy who's probably the National Player of the Year candidate, him and Flag at Duke, 80% or even 60% of Broome is still a problem. And I think that, the Gators' ability 8 weeks ago to run multiple bigs at him has to be a part of the game plan again on Saturday night. Anything that you can do to slow him down or make him uncomfortable, whether that's get him into a little bit of foul trouble so that he's not on the floor as much, or he has to make a tough decision on a play that either ends up in a turnover or a missed shot. Those are all things that I think are key. I think that both teams are opportunistic in that they make others pay for their mistakes. So live ball turnovers, I think, are a big deal on Saturday night. Long rebounds have to be won by Florida. Florida's in good shape in that sense, and the fact that they're the best rebounding team in this field of four, and they'll have to lean on that a little bit. And second chance points, obviously, something that's favored the Gators too. So I think if you're going to look for one intangible, though, it's probably not the best word choice here, but Auburn likes to punk teams a little bit. And Florida wasn't having it 8 weeks ago and stood up to that and kind of dished it back in some sense. They're going to have to do the same thing on Saturday, albeit on a neutral floor, a little different than playing in the jungle. So those are kind of the things that are rattling around my brain here without getting too deep into numbers and analytics.
What do you think it does, the familiarity with these two head coaches in the particular matchup? Do you think it forces a little bit of overthought? Do you think it maybe forces less hands-on coaching and more just, hey, go play ball? Because I don't want to allow anything to be taken away schematically. How does it make either one of these two any different based on the familiarity they have with one another?
Well, interesting, because a dummy like me is going to say, yeah, it matters, and it's going to be a chess match, and you're going to have to go to second and third moves, you know what I mean? But when I've asked Todd Golden about this on a couple of occasions, he says that has nothing to do with it. He goes, it's just which team executes better. We know what they're going to do. They know what we're going to do. I know what Bruce is thinking. He obviously knows what I'm thinking. And if my guys execute better than their guys, then that's how this is supposed to work. So which school of thought you go with, I'm not sure. Maybe you go with the guy that knows more basketball. That'd be Todd Golden. So I'll go with his answer, I guess, and lean in.
I've asked Andy Burcham this. I'm going to ask you too. Looking across the bracket in victory on Saturday, what are you seeing right now from Duke that you think you can take advantage of as a Florida Gator? Because after watching them against the Tide, it's like I don't know who can beat them. I think y'all might be the team that has the best chance, but their length is insane. And then Houston just destroyed a team in Tennessee that we all have great respect for. So how do you kind of size up the other side of the bracket?
Yeah, I size it up as a nightmare. I mean, both those two teams have been so impressive and really in two different ways. Houston's ability to defend, whether it be their veteran experience, because they're not the longest team, but man, they get after it. They get after it in a big way. So if it ended up being Florida-Houston, So you're going to take one of the best scoring offenses in the country in Florida and put them against a team that wants to, turn their lights out defensively. That's like strength on strength in that situation. And then if you look at Duke right now, I look at trios of players, and the Gators probably have the best 3-guard combo in college basketball, but Duke might have the best 3-player combo regardless of position. Flag is everything I thought he would be. I finally got to see him in person here in the tournament when we were in the same region of Raleigh with those guys. And for a guy that's supposed to be a senior in high school, it's crazy how many tools he has in his toolbox. And you combine that with his length and size. He's scary. Proctor's scary. I mean, Duke's a team that can beat you like Florida in a number of different ways. And so I think if you're looking for the most dynamic matchup, it would be Florida-Duke because of the ability to win in different ways and high-powered offenses. If it's Florida-Houston, it's just old-fashioned. Is your offense better than my defense? And that's the way that's going to go too. But look, all 4 teams, I won't be surprised if any one of them are there to cut down the nets on Monday night. This is elite stuff, these 4 teams.
Hey, Sean, I wanted to get one more question with you, not necessarily about this game, I don't believe. And it's just the actual status of Oliver Rue. We've all seen footage of him not having to use a ladder to cut the nets down. And there was some talk about he would be able to play in the tournament and it wouldn't cost him the red shirt. We don't know exactly what the situation was going into the year or what it may have been, what it might be. But the little bit of footage that I've seen from him, man, the kid moves a lot better than you would imagine at 7'9".
He does.
What is sort of the plan and where sort of is his development?
His development is that, well, first of all, he's not going to play this weekend. This is different than a Micah Hanlockton coming back from that catastrophic injury. Micah was a starter a year ago. He's a more seasoned basketball player. So his coming back and playing 14 games down the stretch is a lot different than an Olivier Ryu coming in late in the season just because he'd be another piece, another big. I don't think anybody would want to mess with that chemistry. He's still very raw. He didn't start playing basketball till, just a handful of years ago. He's a project. He was a guy that I think the Gators saw as high reward, low risk. They get him in as a preferred walk-on. If they can develop him, even in a somewhat similar process to say like a Zach Edey, who had some development time early in his college career, that could be a crazy good thing, right? And if it doesn't work out, you didn't invest a whole lot of capital, NIL or revenue share, as the case will be this summer or anything else, in the guy. And so he's a specimen, and you're right, he moves better than I thought he would. He's more filled out for a man of that stature. I think over time he can be in the mix. I think that if you were to play next year, it would be in a off the bench limited way, and maybe his 3rd year in college, that's when we would see him blossom. But it's freakish, guys. He can stand on his tippy toes and put the ball over the rim. 7 feet 9 inches with his shoes on, and by the way, they're size 20. It's freaky how big that dude is. And the Gators aren't a small team. I mean, Hanlock, Condon, Howe, Chinyelu, all those guys, 6'10", 6'11", and they're dwarfed by this kid Ryu. I mean, it is such a thing that when the Gators take the floor in any building, the eyes that go toward that guy and the jaws that start to sink toward the floor, it's kind of fun to watch. And you're not alone, guys, in thinking that, how's this kid not playing? But I just want to tell you, it's a raw project that is still very much trying to work itself through.
Okay, but go back. The most important part of this is maybe how we have been mispronouncing his name. Can you give us the first and last name pronunciation again?
Yeah, Olivier Ryu.
Got it. Okay.
Ryu.
Yep. Not
Ryu.
Many of us had that one down, Sean, but you got us in line.
Not many. Yeah, not many have your French Canadian Montreal pronunciations down. It's kind of like Chinyelu as well. He's from Nigeria, and with that Nigerian dialect, it's virtually impossible for us to replicate the way it's supposed to be pronounced. But I think after many conversations with Ruben, I've come as close as I possibly can. So.
There you go. That's all we can ask.
Love it.
Sean, great stuff. Thanks for hopping on with us. Enjoy the Final Four, and look forward to catching up soon.
Thanks, guys. Look forward to seeing you all y'all soon.
Yes, sir. There you go. Sean Kelly does play-by-play for Florida radio broadcasts. We got the Auburn side from Andy Burcham. You got the Florida side from Sean. If you're just hopping on, you can go back and catch both of those at the podcast and get a little Final Four update on sort of where these teams are. I don't know if that changes anything for me, Greg, as far as your thoughts on this game and where we're headed.
No, I have felt pretty steadfast from the very beginning. I think Florida's the best team in the country. It might have changed slightly with watching Duke's performance the other night, but I still think it's going to be those two on Monday night. I think they're just amazing, and I get the sense that I do think it's the coaching edge, and I think Bruce is amazing. I do think there's a slight coaching edge in favor of Florida. Just with the, like he said, the special teams out of the timeout stuff, the way they're always able to create looks and separation. Like they never, ever, ever feel like they have tons of contested shots. It's just wild. So be really curious to see how that works out.
Absolutely. Spring weather in Alabama can be unpredictable. That's why you need the reliability of a Train. Voted America's most trusted HVAC brand. Right now, you can receive up to a 10-year warranty on parts and labor on select Train home comfort systems. Find out more at Train.com. And remember, it's hard to stop a Train. All right, when we come back, we will shift back to college football. Spring updates from Auburn and Alabama. What's happening? What are we watching? We'll discuss it, and you'll hear from both head coaches next on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, so Final Four talk the last 30 minutes. Move back over to college football. And wanted to go back to a couple of things that took place while we were gone, Greg, and that was some scrimmages in Tuscaloosa with Alabama as it's 8:40. Tuesday, April the 1st, right here on Jocks 94.5, how that quarterback situation is playing itself out. Before we get to that and move completely over to college football, if somebody's looking to move out of their home or into a new home, who should they call?
That'd be Crocker Movers. There's a local company owned by an Iraq War veteran, Eric Crocker. Crocker believes in hiring movers you can trust to complete full background checks and run drug tests on every single employee. These are good guys, and you can trust them in your home. Whether you need your whole home packed up and move, your company headquarters moved across the country, or you just want them to come rearrange your living room, these guys got you covered. They also do deliveries for furniture that you've purchased need to get to your home. So call or visit them online today for a free quote. The website is crockermovingservices.com. That's crockermovingservices.com. Support your veterans by choosing Crocker Moving Services for your next move.
Let's hear from Kalen DeBoer on any separation from the quarterbacks that he has seen so far in spring practice.
I mean, I think it's pretty consistent from where it was from the beginning. So, you know, they all bring something a little bit different to the table, even though it's not like maybe, you know, a runner, you know, and then a passer. It's guys doing their thing and what their strengths are. You know, catchable balls and things like that they do really well. Making maybe field throws. One guy does that a little bit more. One does a little better job of scrambling. So I think they're all learning from each other, though, and taking something from each other's game and applying it to theirs and seeing that, you know, there's always a way to make this play happen or that play happen. I thought they did a good job keeping their eyes downfield and hit some explosives and kept the chains moving on some third and fourth downs that were critical. And that shows, you know, good composure. So, you know, we threw a lot at them the first couple practices, and now I think they're getting into a groove.
Do you believe there is any real separation in this quarterback battle right now in Tuscaloosa?
Yes, I think it's a little bit, but I don't think it's crazy. It's not to the point where that gap can't be overcome by the young guys that are starting to come on. I mean, if for whatever reason, Austin Mack and or Keelan, they have great finishes to spring, and they're going to go into summer with a little bit of momentum. They have a great summer. They have a great fall camp. I think all of that is entirely possible, that those guys are in a position to compete for the job. I don't think this is going to be a decision that's made early. I don't think it benefits the program with 3 scholarship players to name a starter coming out of spring, running the risk of possibly losing a guy, knowing that you're going in one specific direction. So I think it's about where I expected it, where Ty has full control right now, but at the same time, it's not like that gap can't be overcome.
What part of these quarterbacks do you want to hear positive news about outside of just in generalities, but just, is there a part of Austin Mack's game or what he does in practice you'd like to hear more positive discussion about? Is there a part of Ty Simpson that you want to hear Coach DeBoer, Coach Grubb rave about? Like what aspects of their game do you need to hear positive things and be assured that are going the right direction for one or any of them to be able to win this job?
Well, I would be pleased to hear, you know, a guy that is so far sounds like things going pretty well for Ty. I mean, it sounds like he's doing a pretty good job. I mean, I would like to hear him continuing to develop some chemistry and some continuity with the wide receivers. I would like to hear big plays being created. This is not a group that's super concerned about efficiencies. They're more concerned about creating big plays, manufacturing big plays, and that's great. But I think that's going to be something that is worth continuing to monitor. I'm not sure that we're going to know the answer to those things right now. I think in time we'll find out a little bit more, but at this point, it's probably just still too early. It's not really a fair fight at this point. I don't know if you see it that way, but I don't think it's a fair fight at all at this point, because it's just too soon right now to figure out, hey, this guy's going to be able to do this and that and the other things, because one guy's been in the system now for a couple of years. So we'll see where it goes, but I think all things right now, by all accounts, feels like the offense in pretty good shape.
Yeah, I don't feel like the fair fight thing I think is interesting, which is why if I had real insight to one aspect of it, I'd love to know how the reps are being split up and how much maybe that differs in the last 3 or 4 practices than it did the first 3 or 4 practices. That is, I think, one of the few things that'll tell me where it's headed, where it's going. If Austin Mack is getting 20% more first team reps the last 2-3 practices of spring, that tells me he's probably got a real good chance to go get it in the fall. If they stayed the same, then I would imagine that Ty Simpson's there. And then maybe if it's Ty Simpson's have gone down, but the other two have gone up, that could also lead to they're comfortable enough with what he's doing, and they need to make sure they can find a viable backup. So I think I could probably make some sense out of it if I had that information. I just don't know what that's going to be, and that's something I'd like to know.
So do y'all think the pecking order is firmly, though, Simpson, Mack, Russell right now?
As of this moment, yeah. That's what it should be. Max, a third year in the offense, Simpson second. Keelan's 8 practices into his career. So I don't
Conrad,
think
it's going to be hard Greg. It's going to be hard for me to ever imagine a kid coming out of high school, going into spring practice and being able to overtake someone who's been there. It's like
unless you're like an absolute freak. Now,
but even then, the snap
fall,
count, the cadence, like the checks,
it's like
I agree with you. I just know there's a lot of people. This guy's the next greatest gift of football, and everyone wants to know what's going on with him.
Yeah.
Look, Jalen Hurts, did it in 2016, but look who he's competing against.
Surfer boy.
I mean, good Lord.
Okay. Was it Blake Barnett?
It was.
And I think others too.
Yeah, the guy that started the Ole Miss game. What was his name?
Bateman.
Cooper Bateman. I think there was another one too. The got a big tall drink of water from Oklahoma.
Not Cornwell. Not
Cornwell. He wasn't there. I think he was.
It might have been that time.
I think he was.
A lot of options there. Nice guys, but when you really look at it, like it was out of sheer desperation, and it worked out because if you look at that 2016 roster, here's the difference. Like you put Keelan Russell in now as the starting quarterback. I'm just being honest. Like you put him in as starting quarterback, he might be a great player. Look at his supporting cast. Go look at Jalen Hurts' supporting cast 2016. You tell me this team's anywhere near from a talent standpoint what that team was?
Damian Harris, Bo Scarborough, Josh Jacobs running the football. Receiving the football would have been Ardarius Stewart, Calvin Ridley, O.J. Howard, Garrick Dieter, Cam Sims, Trayvon Diggs.
Who else? Anyone else? Offensive line, any good?
I don't have that in front of me right now.
How many points you need to score in those games?
Well, yeah, defensively, that would be another conversation also. You had Ryan Anderson, Tim Williams, Jonathan Allen, Reuben Foster, Sean Deion Hamilton, Minka Fitzpatrick, Dalvin Tomlinson, Rashawn Evans, Strawn Payne, Deshaun Hand, Marlon Humphrey, Christian Miller, Eddie Jackson, Anthony Jennings.
But just a reminder, Kalen DeBoer, he's had the same team that Saban's always had. Same team. Give me a freaking break. Like the team now is nowhere near as talented. So run a freshman out there all you want. Throw them out there to the Wolves to see how that goes. Put a freshman out there with that group. You can probably make it work. Especially if a guy's a runaround guy. Like Jalen was a runaround guy. There is no learning curve for a runaround guy.
They had 4 players with 13 or more tackles for loss in that team. You're not getting that this year.
Also, remind me of this too. Like what did Jalen do in the national championship that year on third down? There's like 1 of 12. Why? Because because it's hard for a freshman to be able to process as quickly. It's great when things are easy and you're running it and you're staying on schedule and you can do all these other things. Like there's a reason why when the going got tough that year and you're playing against a team with comparable talent, the margins got eliminated with a young quarterback. It's not Jalen's fault.
Was this the non-offensive touchdown year when we had to talk about knots every week and that was like the new thing?
That was either 15 or 16, yeah.
Who cares?
They had 5 guys with multiple interceptions. Minka had 6. They had 1, 2, 3, 4. They had 5 players return an interception for a touchdown. They had 1, 2, 3, 4 players return a fumble for a touchdown. Jonathan Allen, 2. Yeah, it had to be that year.
But I mean, to Greg's point, I guess when you think of freshman quarterbacks that came in and lit it up,
put in your zone read offense. Let Jalen go if you're going to have this.
Jameis,
a lot of people
Manziel.
Jameis was a redshirt freshman. Manziel was a redshirt freshman.
Yeah,
and the one that was a true freshman that went in and lit it up was Trevor Lawrence. And
good.
Go ahead, do me a favor. Let's look up that 2018 Clemson team and tell me
the cast was pretty good.
Let's be honest. If this group at Alabama this year is as talented as that 2018 team, probably not. And by the way, is Keelan Russell going to have the benefit of playing against an ACC schedule for the first 8 games of his career? I mean, if I got to play, if I could get my feet wet by playing Syracuse and Virginia and all this, like, that's great.
Is it at Syracuse though?
No, I think it was at home, and Syracuse almost got him in his first start.
Travis Etienne, Adam Choice, Tavian Feaster running the football, receiving the football. Justin Ross, T. Higgins, Amari Rogers, Hunter Renfro. Yeah, they were solid. But I'll go the same direction that you just went earlier, Greg, and that would have been also 4 players with double-digit tackles for loss on that team: Cleveland Farrell, Christian Wilkins, Austin Bryant, Xavier Thomas, and then you also had Isaiah Simmons on the back end of that defense.
All right,
who from a college perspective was pretty sporty.
So yeah, I think it's safe to assume that it's probably not going to be a true freshman starting this year.
We'll see. More on that situation and the Auburn quarterback situation. Where is that headed down on the plains? We know where you should be headed if you're looking for a gift for a loved one, Greg, and that is over to see our friends at Bromberg's.
At the very best, they have multiple locations to make it easy on you. You go in and buy that timeless piece of jewelry that will be in your family, in some cases for multiple generations. I have a feeling that when you walk in the door, you'll understand exactly what I'm talking about. It's just an elevated experience when you shop with the incredible sales staff at Bromberg. So grateful that I got to develop that relationship years and years and years ago. It saved me time, it saved me money, and it's really made a very painless procedure picking out things that I think my wife would like. I don't know what those things are, but I can tell you this: the salespeople at Bromberg's can point you in the right direction because they just know your preferences better than you know them yourself. So go and check them out at Bromberg's in Mountain Brook Village and at the Summit.
All right. When we come back, we'll talk more about the Alabama quarterback situation and also the Auburn quarterback situation through spring practice next on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, 1 hour to go. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. When we come back on the other side, we will talk a little bit of the Auburn quarterback situation through spring, more on the Alabama quarterback situation as well. There's a lot happening there. A lot happening with the weather in Alabama. It can be unpredictable. That's why you need the reliability of a Trane, voted America's most trusted HVAC brand right now. Can receive up to a 10-year warranty on parts and labor on select Trane home comfort systems. Find out more at Trane.com. It's hard to stop a Trane. Continuing spring quarterback conversations next, right here on Jocks 94.5. All right, welcome back in. Hour number 3, McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. We have talked free concessions. We've talked Final Four. Some other college basketball news before we move into Auburn and spring practice and their quarterback situation. UAB forward Yaxel Lindenborg is not just going into the portal, but also the NBA draft. And Greg, what do you often say about leverage?
Leverage is actually good.
Yep. And there are more ways for some of these young athletes to be able to get it. Arkansas forward Big Z, Zamir Ivisic is also going to hit the transfer portal. Kansas guard Rylan Griffin going to hit the transfer portal. I saw a note yesterday from our guy Jeff Goodman. Let me see if I saved this quickly about just the number of guys that are in the portal. And
I thought I saw 2,800.
Yeah, well, his was early in the day yesterday. I want to say it was like 1,800. He said he did say it included some walk-ons.
No, don't you dare.
A staggering number.
Insane
to look at. Shams reported yesterday Notre Dame's Olivia Miles, projected number 2 pick in the WNBA draft this month, is going to forego the draft and enter the portal. Now, that's not surprising really at all, based on what we've heard about some of the WNBA salaries and looking to go capitalize in the portal. But yeah, the transfer portal, we thought it was nuts in football. Basketball, incredible. Goodman also tweeted out yesterday that he's hearing for some of the top transfers in the $2.5 to $3 million range.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Good if you can get it.
Cheddar makes it better.
Cheddar does make it better.
So basketball portal busy. A lot of folks heading in. A lot of folks looking at different reasons that they should go. Kind of like Shannara Flooring, Greg. There's a lot of reasons you should go there.
Yeah, one of my favorite reasons, the fact that they have 40,000 square feet of Core-Tech flooring in stock right now. They're the only company in our central Alabama location that has that much Core-Tech flooring by Shaw that is available for you to go and look at, touch, see, feel. You'll understand why it's the best, most 100% waterproof, kid-proof, pet-proof flooring. Brings out tons of value in your home and or your business. So easy to clean, so easy to maintain. And I know you can get 12 months financing with approved credit if you go with my friends at Shannara Flooring. So if you're thinking about making some changes to your floors, call who? Call Fu. Call them today at 205-518-6423, or you can go online at fooandyou.com.
Hugh Freeze on his quarterback situation, Jackson Arnold specifically, and Deuce Knight. So that's Hugh Freeze just on his quarterback situation, Greg. I don't think that I'm just kidding. I don't think the Deuce Knight thing is going to be ready. That's going back to kind of what we were saying with the Alabama quarterback situation. So I want to focus in a little bit more on Jackson Arnold. And it's great to hear Hugh say that he's making the right decisions, that the football IQ is there, but it's the football IQ is not the problem. The athleticism, Gatorade Player of the Year, the arm strength, the accuracy, it's not the problem. I need to hear answers on how you get past the problem of actually letting go of the football.
Yeah.
And you played the position, so how would you address that? What would you want to hear from Hugh Freeze that would give you some comfort level of that may be gone away and that may be actually able to happen a little bit more often this year?
I mean, trusting it's hard. I mean, I'm not going to try to sit there and spin it and tell you it's not. It's extremely hard. But at the same time, I think that he has to play not to try to make a mistake, because when you play not to try to make a mistake, those mistakes can compound and it just you become gun shy. I mean, how many times last year do you think he was told, don't turn it over, don't turn it over, don't turn it over? Over and over
Specifically
and over
with that defense?
nonstop.
Probably a lot,
I mean, it's probably all he was told. And believe me, as a guy that was told that all the time, it's really hard to play at a high level when you are told that. It's really hard unless you're empowered and say, dude, if you make a mistake, it doesn't matter. We got your back. It'd be nice to
Which,
hear
if your
that.
defense is that good, shouldn't that be the message?
Yeah, but that's not the way the coaches operate. Coach Saban is the best ever, and never, ever, not one time said, "Yeah, don't worry, we got your back if you make a mistake." Not once, ever. So it's just not the way it works. Like, especially when you're a defensive coach. So I don't know exactly how that's going to work out, but I feel like there's enough positivity coming out. Now, I haven't talked to anybody down there, but I feel like there's a decent amount of positivity coming out about what's going on with Jackson Arnold. Like, I haven't heard anything bad.
No, I don't think you would.
I think it's fine.
Yeah, from a practice perspective, he is it. He's got it all. It's just and obviously, I mean, he got the job, kept the job. I was looking back on it. I had Tyler Siskey on my podcast this week, and we talked about this when we were discussing just different things through spring ball. And he brought up exactly what you did. He goes, listen, the thing when I watch, he goes, you're right about, because my point was the kid couldn't let go of the ball.
Yeah.
He goes, you're exactly right. He goes, but when I see that, the first thing that comes to my mind is he was terrified of making a mistake.
Right.
And so it's not going out there playing loose, playing free, playing to win. It's playing not to lose. And you can't do that at that position.
Can't do it.
And so, furthering that point of, the accuracy, we know the accuracy can be there. We didn't know if he was accurate last year because half the time he just held on the damn ball. So can he run? Yeah, we saw the 68-yard touchdown run, whatever it was.
Yeah,
so
he can run.
We're not worried about any of that. I'm a little bit more concerned with how are you going to free him up when the lights come on? Because in practice, the lights aren't really on. When the cameras turn on, the people get in the stands, how are you going to inject the freedom that is needed? And that's what we don't know. Maybe we don't know until we get into a game. But I started thinking about his situation a little bit more last year. And we've talked about the offensive linemen that were dinged up, the offensive linemen that were banged up.
Yeah.
What was he down? His top 3 receivers also?
Oh my gosh, maybe more than that.
And then also you had an offensive coordinator that didn't coach quarterbacks, and we're both fans of him. Seth Luttrell's great, but that made that relationship just a little bit different. And then I started thinking about it too, Greg. And listen, so much happens during the season. Greg and I are going to blow past stuff. It's going to happen. Like there are things that if we covered individual teams like we do Alabama and Auburn here, we would probably spend the correct amount of time on them.
Right.
I'm not sure we had enough conversation about when he was benched last year.
Too early?
I think so now, looking back on it.
It's hard to push back on it. I don't know if I would ever say that it was too early. But given where things were, you almost have to factor in the performance in the bowl game, the performance in the spring and fall camp, and then the amount of time that was taken. What was it? How many games into the season last year was he benched? 3?
He was benched in the Tennessee game, if I'm
the third game,
correct.
right?
Am I right?
Yeah,
Is that right?
That's right. That's right.
That was the 4th game of the year.
4th game of the year.
Temple, Houston, Tulane, where he had 4, 5, 6, 7 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, but he also put the ball on the ground a couple times. So,
and you factor in the game in the bowl game, that's really 5 games. So was it too soon? Probably. But at the same time,
it felt like it was a panic move against Tennessee when you were in the game, but when you were watching the game, you weren't really in the game.
Yeah. Didn't feel like you were in the game. I mean, Tennessee wasn't the only reason you were in the game at all is because Tennessee had a couple of moments where.
And they throttled down offensively.
Yeah, they didn't do it. They took their foot off the gas and they didn't do anything to try to make it dicey. I mean, like they were perfectly fine punting.
Yes. And Michael Hawkins Jr., I just don't know if he was going to be that answer. Ran around a little bit in that game, did some things, but
We've seen it happen before, though. You're supposed to be God's gift to football, and you're the face of the organization. You're the face of the sport. Spencer Rattler went through the same thing.
Yep.
Spencer Rattler had the same thing. The world collapsed upon him like it was like there was nothing going on. And we've seen other guys, too. The weight of the world, the expectations of the world on their shoulders. Sam Darnold. In his second year as a starter, look how many interceptions he threw. I think it was like 16 or 17 interceptions. It's a ridiculous number. Why? Because he was trying to win the Heisman on every throw. I mean, that's a hard thing. How many guys picked Jackson Arnold to win the Heisman last year? I bet you there was a handful.
There's a few out there that said he could. Yeah.
I bet you there was a handful, which is more than anyone should have. Because how do you know who's going to win the Heisman when the guy has never played? It's impossible. So I think he had to learn how to fail, and that's a really valuable lesson. But the reminder of said failure is there on every single throw. That's a hard thing to get past. It is. You've always said it. If you got the turnover gene, you got the turnover gene. I don't know if I'd go that far.
Do you think offensive head coaches
yes
take that stance differently? Because you're talking about the way Coach Saban handled you. He had a defensive coach in Norman who was probably delivering a similar message like, hey, we got an all-time great at linebacker, an all-time great at safety. We got edge guys that can get to the quarterback. We got experience all over this defense. Like, hey, man, don't screw it up.
Correct.
And it was not where you can imagine, like, you think Lane Kiffin's message to Matt Corral was ever, hey, man, just don't go out there and mess up.
No.
Hey, bro, let it all rip, every single bit of it. Like, you think Lebby's going out there and telling Blake Shapen this year, hey, man, whatever you do, just don't F up, okay? If you could just not screw up, that'd be great.
Yeah.
I just don't see those guys having that message.
Heck no, that's not the message they have. Offensive guys treat it totally different because they've been in they understand what confidence can do to a guy's performance. I mean, how many times have we seen guys just get beaten and battered down only to go somewhere else and have look at how look at Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow 1 year was told, don't screw it up. Let us run the ball. We're going to control them on defense. We're going to do this. The next year, like, Joe, you can do it. We trust you. We're going to build our offense around you. Let it rip. We completely trust you. And look at the change. Look at how he evolved as a player.
I don't think Joe Brady was going into games saying, hey, man, even if Jamar's open, don't mess it up, okay?
Yeah, like, it's better just throw it away. Like, it's fine. Don't take a chance.
And by throwing away, we mean throw it high enough to where only Chase or Jefferson can get it. That's a throwaway for us.
They're not saying that. So I think it's a lot easier to play quarterback for an offensive-minded head coach. I don't think it's close. Let's look at what might happen with Ty Simpson. Like, well, let's just see. Let's see. Like, played for Coach Saban, was the best player available according to the staff, the best quarterback. It's not breaking news. He was the best guy from a talent standpoint, but he was battered, in practice and couldn't cut it loose and didn't have the confidence. Now, all of a sudden, Kalen DeBoer comes in, offensive-minded head coach, very glass half full. Now, all of a sudden, it's like, hey, Ty's turning some heads out there. Like, what happened? It's a mindset change.
Yeah.
You think he got more talented?
Got some freedom.
You think he got better? Think he's all of a sudden ran faster and threw harder? Like, overnight? No.
Well, it's almost like we talk about the Burrow situation, and that's like physical freedom, too, where you actually have options to get into different passing routes, protections, throw different balls. But it's that mental freedom also of, hey, man, if you think you can do this, go do it. Kind of what we talked about with Skip Holtz and Corral.
Yeah.
Where he's like, hey, man, you can't make that throw. And Corral, Skip Holtz told me the story. He's like, Corral looks over there, like, Coach, I just made it. Literally just completed it. He's like, yeah, but when that safety's there, like, we can't do that. And, Skip is an offensive guy. But it's that mental freedom, I imagine, too, Greg, at that position of, I think I can do this. I know I can do this. I'm going to go out and do this.
Yeah.
As opposed to, should I or should I not do this?
Let me give you another example. What kind of player was Jalen Hurts in his first 2 or 3 years at Alabama?
God, that's a great one.
What was the difference?
Probably had Lincoln Riley sitting there saying, hey, dude, you know what? We're going to probably score 50. So if you turn it over 1 or 2 drives, it's okay. We'll get to 37 and we'll still win the game instead of 50, but let it go.
Yeah, let it rip. And that's like I said, it's not a knock on Coach Saban. It's just different program philosophies. It's just different. And Coach Saban's won a lot more than Lincoln Riley. But guess what? Lincoln Riley's had a lot more Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks. Like, if we're looking at
Nick Saban's had a lot more first round defensive draft picks.
100%. If we're looking at quarterback development, we're exclusively looking at it through the quarterback development lens because that's the conversation that we're having right now. We're having the conversation about quarterback development and Jackson Arnold. Through the quarterback development lens, Lincoln Riley's as good as anybody in the sport right now. I mean, because he empowers his quarterback and his quarterback believes he can walk on water. And while that might not be a great personality trait, it's pretty good when you're on the field. And I think that's something that'll be real interesting with Jackson Arnold because I always viewed Hugh that way until last year. And he was hard. He was really hard on Peyton Thorne. And I do think he's probably evolved based on that experience. I'm hoping.
It's such an interesting conversation of just how much can go into it, how much can change, how much can be different based on what a quarterback is allowed to even try to do, not what they can or can't do, but what they're allowed to even attempt. And not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, what a head coach or somebody in charge is allowing them to think they are or be. It can make you such a different player. It can, like you said, that empowerment, Greg, is something I don't think we talk a lot about in college football, of what it can do for a player. And it's not just quarterback, but at a lot of positions, but quarterback, I imagine, probably one of the top 2 or 3 of how different it can make you once you get on the field.
It's a different animal, like 100% a different animal. The confidence is, you're going to throw it with more velocity when you're confident. Like when you're stepping into a throw and you really believe it. Think about anyone that's played golf. How many people listen to this show have pulled back a golf club? Like on the days when you're striping it, you swing harder without even trying to, because you trust it. You're committed. It's the same way it is throwing the football. Like how many people have been on a baseball mound? You're sitting there and you're throwing gas one day and you got your curveball going, you got your slider going, your changeup feels pretty good. Like you got full control. You can rear back and throw it with more command because you believe it's going to go where you want it to go. I mean, it's purely psychological. Why do you think all these PGA Tour players have like mental health coaches?
Yeah.
Because you have to commit on every single play, every single throw, every time you rear back and throw it. Like you have to believe that you are going to execute that play or that shot or that pitch. You have to believe it. It's no different than when it's a heat check in basketball. Oh man, what did Mark Steer say the other day? It was like the size of the ocean, or the hoop was the size of a lake, or something like that. I don't remember what it was. Or somebody said that last couple of days. It's no different. When you believe it's going to happen, you believe that you can do it, you usually can. It's kind of amazing.
There was another thing that Tyler Siskey said to me when we were recording the pod over the weekend that I wanted to get your thoughts on pertaining to this Auburn offense. I'll ask you that on the other side. First, I'll tell you about your CBD store. I was in there yesterday talking to the guys about some of the new products that they have in. They want to help you with being able to focus a little bit better throughout the course of the day, being able to calm down, sleep better at night. They have products that can help you with that. And multiple products. The Trim by SunMed for weight loss on the shelves now at your CBD store, largest brick and mortar CBD retailer on planet Earth. Stop by today and see why. First company to have USDA certified organic oil supplements. Have got the stamp seal on those products, so they're going to meet and achieve a certain set of standards and tests to be signed off on. 3 locations: Highway 280 by Bailey Brothers, 150 by the Cage in Cleaver, Trussville just off 459. Your CBD store, where good health hits home. When we come back, is Auburn the best in the SEC at this? I'll ask the question what it is right after this on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, 9:23, Tuesday, April 1st. Charlie Potter going to join the show now. That is not an April Fool's prank. He actually will be with us on the Higginbotham Hotline. It covers the Alabama Crimson Tide. And Charlie, we just had a fascinating conversation about quarterbacks. And Greg sharing with us a little bit about how Saban would sort of treat your role as a quarterback. And then our assumption, which I feel like is probably pretty accurate, of how offensive coaches treat that mentality, that attitude, that demeanor of go let it rip, and as opposed to maybe don't go make a mistake. Have you felt or seen or heard any of that from guys like Ty Simpson of a little bit of more mental, emotional freedom than maybe what they had in the past?
I think that comes with just being in the program for a while too. I think Ty is a guy, I mean, he's going into year 4, which is kind of crazy. But I think that you gain confidence the more you're around, and now you have a prime opportunity in front of you. I think when hearing from Kalen DeBoer, he hasn't really tipped his hand much when talking about the quarterbacks, and that's to be expected. I think most coaches are kind of in that same mindset and approach, but he talks about just the execution of things. So I think that the game managing aspect is there, but I think there's been a lot of explosive plays too. And so I think that so far this spring, it sounds like from at least Ty Simpson's standpoint, he's done a good job at both of those areas. And I think that's why right now he's the leader in the clubhouse in that quarterback competition.
How is the group around him? Because I think that's going to be a big change this year based on what I'm hearing. It's that group at wide receiver is night and day different from where they were a year ago. In the spring, granted, that was prior to Ryan Williams' arrival. But either way, they're very, very optimistic about how their weapons are rounding into shape. So how do you think the supporting cast will look around the quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, like kind of what you said, it feels like a complete 180 from last year. And that's kind of crazy when you lose 6 guys to the transfer portal and you only bring in 3. I think they feel good about some of the younger guys that have been in the program. I think a guy like Rico Scott is taking a big step. You have Jalen Mbakwe making the move from corner. But, of course, you got Jeremy Bernard and Ryan Williams at the top. You bring in a guy like Isaiah Horton from Miami, and I think I could give them 3 really good wide receivers. You might be hard-pressed to find a better trio in the SEC or maybe even in the country. But I think that getting Jalen Hale back, getting Cole Adams back from injury, that's huge. And then I think they feel good about the young guys they brought in Latair Brooks and Derek Meadows. And those are 2 very different players at like 5'9" and what looks like 8 feet tall when you look at him out on the field in Meadows. But I think it's a group that is maybe more locked in. It's a group that is athletic. It's not a huge group. I think they have 10 scholarship wide receivers right now, and they're not going to play all 10. As you know, it's hard to get that many receivers on the field. But I think that with Jeremy Bernard and Ryan Williams coming back, you know what you've got there. You've got 2 really strong players that led that group last year. Now you've got some guys that can kind of come in and complement them a little bit more. I felt like they were lacking that last year. It felt like it was just 5-2 out there a lot of the time. So I think bringing in Horton, having some of these guys back healthy, having some guys kind of step up as they continue to move their way throughout the program, and then bringing some young guys in, it's really kind of brought a breath of fresh air to that wide receiver position. I think that can certainly help out Alabama's next quarterback.
Charlie Potter joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline talking Alabama spring practice. One spot Greg and I talked about a little bit earlier today that I have uncertainty about that was a strength for the football team last year is tight end. Now, this is also not a system that necessarily requires that position to be great, but they had a lot of options to allow that position to be a lot of different things last year. Maybe that's the part of it that I just don't really see being available again. But where are you on the tight end position for Alabama right now?
Yeah, it's super thin. I think if you look at maybe that or tackle, they're probably battling for the thinnest position on the roster. Just from a number standpoint. And they haven't had everybody healthy this spring. Danny Lewis is out, and he's someone that I think can kind of emerge to fill that void left by C.J. Dupree and Robbie Utes. Because last year it was Dupree, Utes, and Josh Cuevas. And right now really Josh Cuevas is the only experienced guy on the roster from a scholarship standpoint. They have young guys like Jay Lindsey, who's going into year 2. Marshall Pritchett's a young guy they brought in. I think they feel good about, but still, he's been through 9 college practices so far. And then they did bring in a transfer. I'm not sure if he's a walk-on or not. You know how that gray area kind of goes, but a kid from Weber State that can maybe give them some depth there. But when you're getting to that point of talking about the tight ends, yeah, it is a numbers issue. I do think Cuevas can be really good for this offense. He knows this system. He's been in it for several years now, transferring over from Washington. I think it's clear he's the number one guy, but they're going to need some other guys to step up. And again, they're not at full strength. Dane Lewis will be back, after the spring. They're going to bring in Caleb Edwards, who I think is a top 10 tight end nationally, and can maybe give you some more of that kind of Dupree-esque tight end reps. But yeah, it's going to be a little different because you don't have another Robbie Utes on this roster. There's not many of those guys out there. I think he's nearly 280 at Alabama's pro day. So you're going to have some guys step up from a run blocking and inline tight end standpoint. But I think they've got some interesting receiving options, but it's just options. That word right there, that there's not many of them in the tight end room right now.
Is there a plan, do you think, after the spring to potentially add a portal tight end if one's available? I mean, I know that they're always looking to add, they're always looking to evaluate who goes in, but are there some priority positions for them where they might be a little short on numbers or quality?
Yeah, I think that would certainly be one. I think you look at what happens at offensive tackle, obviously. I think they feel good about Proctor and Formby, but beyond that, I mean, you really just have Jackson Lloyd and the kid from Ball State that came in, who I think is maybe a little bit of a project. What else? I think Kane Womack talked about the interior defensive line as maybe the biggest concern, and I'm using air quotes here because I don't know. You have Tim Keenan, James Smith, some young guys that have stepped up. It's just from a number standpoint, it might not be what you're looking at. And honestly, from a special team standpoint, that might be where I'm looking at the most, just because you have Connor Talty and then a bunch of unknowns. They brought in some guys that have been banged up this spring, like the freshman punter, the long snapper from Cal that transferred in. But other than Talty, we just haven't heard a ton from a name standpoint. So I think they feel good about a lot of areas. We talked about wide receiver, Kalen DeBoer gushed over that in the defensive backfield, but I think tight end, maybe offensive tackle, the interior of that defensive line, and then special teams is probably where they look once the spring wraps up.
What's the feel, the vibe around Grubb being added? Greg and I are both real high on him. We both love him for a lot of different reasons, but it's not that the system's going to be totally different, but sometimes just a little bit of mentality shift can make a big difference. Just what have you heard from the guys about his addition?
Yeah, I think that mentality shift is probably the biggest thing. I know it kind of ruffled some feathers on Twitter and our message board when Parker Brailsford said the most popular question he gets from his teammates about Ryan Grubb, because he obviously worked with him at Washington before transferring to Alabama, is guys will ask him, is he mean? And, that's maybe a red flag, people thinking players are a little soft, but it's probably because it's been so different, because he is kind of he and Kalen DeBoer are kind of yin and yang when it comes to mentality and how they kind of handle themselves on the field. He'll get after guys, and not saying Kalen DeBoer won't, but I think Grubb kind of did that from day one, and that's just his mentality. He's looking for perfection. He's trying to get the best out of guys, and that's the way that he knows how to do it. And so it's been different, I think. It's probably been more Saban-esque for some of those guys, so maybe that is a breath of fresh air for some of the guys that are back on offense, but those guys are kind of few and far between at this point. But, yeah, I think it is different. I do agree with you guys, though. I mean, you look at the track record, what he's been able to do. I think there's a lot of reason for optimism. I think the staff from top to bottom on both sides of the ball is really solid. So I think that, adding him and also retaining Nick Sheridan for that quarterback room is huge, and having both of those guys in that room quite a bit this spring is going to be advantageous for those guys battling for that starting job. So, through 9 practices, he's been on campus for, feels like a month or two. I think it's been really positive so far, and I'm excited to get back out to practice and maybe see a little bit more.
What do you think the timeline is for the quarterback position and the decision that will be made there?
It's a good question. I think it depends on who it is because, obviously if it's like a Keelan Russell, if he starts to stand out and they feel good about him and want to kind of push forward with him, I don't know if they say that publicly. And even if they don't say it publicly, you have the possibility of losing some of the older guys at the spring portal. It's kind of a tricky situation. I think right now it's still pretty close, but I think Ty Simpson has done some really good things in spring. Obviously from a public standpoint, Kalen DeBoer doesn't really have any reason to name it going into that Florida State game, other than maybe game week. But I think that when it happens, it happens. I know that's a really lazy answer. I get that, but I think they're just they're not really forcing it, and they're giving every guy an opportunity. I think they ran 115 plays in that scrimmage last week, 50 with the ones, 50 with the twos, and threes get the scraps there. And I think that all of them got some opportunities. I think Keelan Russell probably ran more with the twos than the others, but I think right now it's kind of status quo, and it'll be interesting to see if things shift, if there is a guy that kind of really starts to separate himself and they start to move in that direction. But I think right now, like I just said, I think it's pretty much status quo.
Charlie, appreciate the time. Always good catching up with you. Just wanted to get some updates on spring ball down in Tuscaloosa, how things are going, how things are shaping up. So we'll do it again soon.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me.
There you go. Charlie Potter joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline talking Alabama spring. No surprises there for you, G-Mac? That really changes your opinion on anything?
No, it further solidifies the things that I've been hearing, which I'm always appreciative of, because you just never know. You never know. Hey, you hear one thing from one person, one thing from another, but a lot of the stuff that I've been hearing, it sounds like he's hearing similar. So that's encouraging, I think. And I will be really curious. I mean, we're not there yet, right? I mean, we're a long way from figuring this thing out, but I just will be real curious to see if there's any urgency, knowing it's an offensive-minded coaching staff, to make that decision clear so that there's one voice, there's one leader that is establishing credibility with his offensive teammates. I don't think there's a need to do that because of numbers, but I'll be curious to know, what do they value? Do they value team chemistry and continuity, or do they value retention from a scholarship standpoint at quarterback?
Yeah, it's like you said, we got a ways to go before we're going to get there. And the tariffs, you can avoid those when you find your new ride fast at Royal Automotive. Don't wait and get stuck paying thousands or even tens of thousands more for the vehicle that you want. Leave the uncertainty behind and get to my friends at Royal Automotive. Get up to $10,000 off select 2025 GMC Sierra models. Score up to $2,500 in customer bonus on select VW models during Volkswagen Deal Days, or celebrate 70 years of Volvo in the U.S. with a $1,000 customer allowance and APR as low as 3.99%. Royal Automotive, right there at the corner of I-65 and Highway 31 in Vestavia. Royal Buick GMC, Royal Volkswagen, Royal Automart, Volvo Cars of Vestavia Hills, all right there at that location. Find them online, royalautomotive.net. Make Royal your first and last stop when car shopping. And remember, for every ride, there's Royal. So we'll go back to sort of the Auburn side of it as I tease going into Charlie Potter. Something that someone said Auburn is best at in the SEC. I want to get your opinion on it next. Mac and Cube in the morning. 9:40, Tuesday, April 1st, right here on Jocks 94.5. Go check out my friends at Royal Automotive. GMC Sierra that I drive from Royal. My father drives a VW SUV from Royal. You can get down there, check yours out now. The used car lot, also magnificent at Royal. Doesn't have to be brand new vehicles. And I was there last week, and the selection is massive, whether it's pickup trucks, the GMC Sierras, the Yukons, the SUVs are loaded out. They have a murdered out new Hummer, the all-electric Hummer, which is pretty legit. You can get down there and check it out and see it. All the Volvo SUVs in stock now at Royal Automotive, corner of I-65, Highway 31 in Vestavia. Best people, best selection right here in Birmingham. Go check them out for your new vehicle today, royalautomotive.net. And remember, for every ride, there's Royal. So when Tyler Siskey was on with me this weekend, Greg, he brought up something when we were talking about Jackson Arnold. He said, I think he's going to have the best receiving core in the SEC. And kind of took a step back and thought about it for a second. And so, well, maybe we need to discuss this, talk about this on a different show that I do and spend a little bit more time on it. Are we ready to label this Auburn receiving core with that? Is that real right now?
I don't think it's totally out of the realm of possibility, but it does feel a little bit aggressive, doesn't it? What do you think?
Yeah, it's because I think one of the main parts of it that people are is something that drives you crazy. I think there's a big part of it that people are just assuming because of recruiting that it's going to be there. I think the Texas group's going to be really good. I mean, DeAndre Moore's proven. Ryan Wingo is going to be a star.
Yeah.
He did more than Cam Coleman did last year. If we're just talking about like guys that have gone out and done things and proven what
he
they're
didn't have as many
of.
stars in recruiting though.
Actually, I think he did.
Yeah, but he could have not, maybe.
Yeah, I think Wingo was a big time recruit. So, I that's one that I would immediately offer up and say, okay, I'll put them next to him, see what they're going to look like. There's going to be a couple that are going to be new with new guys coming in, so we don't really know exactly what they're going to be like. But you go to some of the usual suspects, and it's kind of like Georgia, not what it's been. I mean, they go get a big target down the field with Noah Thomas from A&M. Maybe they let London Humphreys play football this year. Dylan Bell can kind of do it all. Zachariah Branch he's not a receiver. He's just a speed guy. And they've had guys be successful doing that before. But I mean, he's not a solidified wide receiver in my opinion. But it's not what it has been the last couple of years. Kentucky's is not what it's been the last couple of years. LSU's is going to be different. Nick Anderson was supposed to be the guy at Oklahoma last year. And he was dinged up. He comes in, might be great. Xavion Thomas has been really good in this league at two different places. Aaron Anderson's a guy you've talked about, Greg, that probably deserves a lot more credit than what he gets.
Might be the most underrated player in the league.
So LSU's is going to be up there, but I don't think you say LSU or Auburn slam dunk definitively one better than the other. I think it's a worthy debate.
I think it really depends on which Cam Coleman we get. I think it's easy to remember what happened down the stretch, last couple games of the season. It's easy to remember that. But there were moments last year in which he disappeared. I mean, he was a non-factor. And don't put it on the quarterback. I think a lot of it had to do with his inconsistencies as a route runner. I know he's a freshman too, though.
No, but you saw that early on.
Yeah.
You pointed it out before the quarterback stuff really began at Auburn last year when we had those conversations.
Yeah, inconsistent on depths, not knowing how to beat a guy across his face, letting guys get position. I mean, there were things that he did last year that were really, really hard to get over. But then again, he was young. So I will absolutely 100% forgive that. Now it's just about, there's a big gap though between being, where were they last year? The 6th, 7th, 8th best receiving core in the league?
Going into the year, yeah, easily.
No, I'm talking at the end of the year.
Maybe 5th around there, probably. Yeah, we go back and look at last year. You're talking about what everybody had a wide receiver. LSU was going to be ahead of them. Ole Miss was going to be ahead of them. Missouri was going to be ahead of them. Oklahoma at the beginning of the year was definitely ahead of them. Tennessee was going to be ahead of them. Texas was going to be ahead of them. A&M last year was probably going to be ahead of them. Georgia was going to be ahead of them.
I think fifth is aggressive.
Safe. It's aggressive
at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Like I think we're probably closer to like 7th.
Yep.
Top half of the league, which is, by the way, good. I know people are like, oh, top half of the league. No, that's
no, there were
pretty
some
good.
really good groups last year.
Yeah, there's some really good wide receiver groups. So
Like,
yes,
you could have said the SEC had 4 of the top 5 receiving groups in the country last year. I think you could. There's a real argument there.
Probably wouldn't push back on
I mean,
that.
who are the 2 that definitely would have stuck out more? Maybe Ohio State and Oregon. Ohio State was 1, so
Yeah.
I'm not going to put any SEC group above them.
No.
And then who else is even in play there? Oregon?
Yeah, I mean, Oregon was good.
Miami? Maybe? So, I mean, yeah, being 5th in the SEC as a receiver group last year was not a ding by any stretch of the imagination.
Not bad.
No.
So I think when you look at it and take it all on the whole, I think Auburn has a chance to be a top 3 group in the SEC potentially.
Yeah. Which is still really good.
Really good. I do think there's some question marks a little bit on like Cam Coleman's consistency. I think that's a question. That's a fair question mark. I think there's some inflated aspects to his production last year that are easy to kind of point to, especially taking into account the level of competition that he was getting there. One of his big breakout games. I mean, what percentage of his production came in one game?
A&M and Alabama, he kind of made up for a lot of it, but before that, yeah, it was 2 for 62 and a touchdown against Alabama A&M. It was 8 for 100 and 3 touchdowns against Louisiana Monroe. So that was real. You had 3 for 82 against Oklahoma. You had 7 for 128 against A&M, 2 touchdowns. You had 7 for 78 and a touchdown against Bama. So later it came against some better teams, but there was still a big chunk of it that was against you're feasting on lesser opponents. There's no doubt.
Yeah, but that's okay. That's not unusual, by the way. We see that all the time. It's not something I'd be even too concerned about, but doing it against top tier competition is something we'll see. And I think he's got all the skill set. He's got all the attributes, and we could very easily fast forward to the end of the year. They could be the top group or one of the top groups. But a lot of receiver play is going to be dependent on quarterback play. If your quarterback's missing guys that are open, it's hard for us to fully appreciate the quality of play that we're getting at wide receiver. So I think they go very much hand in hand, and it will be something that'll be really, really interesting. It's hard to really acknowledge a team with the top group if Will Howard is missing guys right and left and throwing them over guys' heads and can't catch it and, make one hop and curls and stuff like that. No one's going to know how good the Ohio State wide receivers were last year. So I think that's something that'll go hand in hand too. So we'll check it out. I think they're going to be in the mix, and they could be among the most improved position groups in the sport from where they started last year to where they're starting this year, which I think is a really good place to be.
Which other groups might fall into play there? We'll discuss them right after this on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back at McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. One other quick update that I did want to get to is that this is a bad day for the Braves yesterday. 0-5, Dodgers take them down. Dodgers 6-0 now.
Oh, no. The Dodgers beat the Braves?
You don't say.
Well, it wasn't a great day for the Dodgers either, really.
Don't care.
Top to bottom.
Who cares?
You don't care about Freddie Freeman's shower accident?
Huh?
Come again?
Context?
Freddie Freeman injured himself in the shower.
No, don't care.
Think he'll be all right.
I think we'll be all right. We'll just replace him with another all-star. We'll probably just go buy the Braves best player. Just say, hey, if you want to just switch sides of the locker room, we'll make it worth your while.
Missed the lineup. Dave Roberts said, quote, he had a little mishap entering the shower. Kind of swelled up a bit. Now, this for the next show, totally different conversation. We're going to leave it there.
We'll let them have that one.
Yeah, that's a freebie. That's a layup for you guys.
There you go.
3-man front, 4 hours right after us.
Love it.
But either way, just wanted to get to that small update there.
Wait, so you're telling me the Braves, I just want to make sure I got this right. The Braves haven't won yet?
They are 0-5.
Yes. But that's...
I'm sorry, 0-5.
Winless.
That is winless. Correct.
Correct. Yeah. It's too bad.
What's the problem?
It's just I just feel bad for all the people. Like, what are they going to do in June and July when they're grinding over Braves? I'm pretty pumped about it. I think I can get some cheap tickets, get the kids over there.
Okay. They are currently 29th in batting average, hitting 144. Only the Twins are worse.
Ugh.
Wait, you're saying, hang on a second. The Athletics are better than the Braves?
Actually by about 10 spots. Yeah.
Wow.
They're 19th right now, hitting 225.
The A's can go.
How many
That
major
might be
league
our new
teams?
team.
How many major league teams do you think as a team are hitting over 300 right now?
0?
No.
I say 7.
3.
4. Yankees, which
That was one day.
One game would have kept them above
Torpedo
that.
bats. Congratulations.
Oh, they're on sale right now at
We love
Marucci.com. Everybody's got them now.
We love torpedoes.
Arizona, second in the league. Baltimore, who has been raking. Adley Rutschman, really nice out of the gate. And then the Pat St. Louis Cardinals are hitting 301.
Let's
and
go,
I think
Cardinals.
Mason Wynn is hitless, by the way.
Let's go, Cardinals. I want to beat the Cardinals in St. Louis for the NLCS. We need new blood.
Well, you probably won't get it. 3-man front coming at you next. We're back tomorrow, 7 to 10.